Human eye. Most people don't realize how complex the human eye is, or how much it does every second to allow us to make sense of the world. The human eye is essentially a biological camera. Light enters through the cornea, which bends it, then passes through the pupil, which changes size depending on brightness. Behind the pupil is the lens, which fine-tunes focus. Together, these parts direct light to the back of the eye, where the real processing begins. That light lands on the retina, a thin layer of cells lining the inner surface. The retina contains two main types of light-sensitive cells, rods and cones. Rods help you see in low light, while cones handle color and detail, working best in daylight. There are three types of cones, each sensitive to different wavelengths, roughly red, green, and blue, which combine to let you see millions of colors. Once the retina detects light, it converts that information into electrical signals. These travel through the optic nerve to the brain, where the image is assembled. In reality, you see with your brain using the data your eyes collect. Small changes in this system can affect vision. If your eye is slightly too long or too short, light won't focus correctly, and you may need glasses. As the lens hardens with age, focusing becomes more difficult, which is why reading glasses are common later in life. The human eye doesn't just detect light, it shapes how you experience everything around you. Gravity. Every time you drop your phone, pour a glass of water, or sit in a chair, you're interacting with gravity. It's the force that keeps your feet on the ground and everything else from floating away. Gravity is the natural attraction between objects that have mass. The more mass something has, the stronger its gravitational pull. Earth is massive, so it pulls everything toward its center, including you. That's why objects fall downward and why you feel your weight pressing into the floor. You don't need to think about gravity for it to work. It's acting on you constantly. When you jump, you rise for a moment, then fall back because Earth's gravity is pulling you down. If you toss a ball, it follows a curved path, not because it's aiming for the ground, but because gravity is pulling on it the whole time. Gravity also holds larger things in place. It keeps the moon orbiting Earth and the Earth orbiting the sun. Even though these objects are moving fast, gravity bends their paths into orbits instead of letting them drift into space. On Earth, gravity gives objects weight. If you go somewhere with less gravity, like the moon, the object's mass stays the same, but it feels lighter because the pull is weaker. Astronauts train for this difference because movement feels different without the same downward force. Although gravity feels constant, it's not exactly the same everywhere. It can change slightly depending on your altitude or the density of the material beneath you. But in daily life, it's stable enough that you rarely notice. From the motion of planets to the way your drink falls when tipped, gravity quietly shapes almost everything you experience. Light. You switch on a lamp, and instantly the room becomes visible. That's the basic experience of light, something we rely on constantly without giving it much thought. Light is a form of energy. It travels in waves and moves incredibly fast, about 300,000 kilometers per second. The kind of light we can see with our eyes is called visible light, and it's just a small part of a larger spectrum that also includes things like infrared and ultraviolet. But in everyday life, we mostly care about the part that helps us see. When light hits an object, some of it gets absorbed and some of it bounces off. The light that reflects off the object reaches our eyes, and our brain interprets it as color and shape. That's how we recognize everything from a red apple to a blue sky. Without light, none of this would be possible. You wouldn't be able to see your surroundings, read a book, or even see your own face in the mirror. Most of the light we use comes from two main sources: natural light, like sunlight, and artificial light, like bulbs and screens. Sunlight is a mix of all the colors of visible light and is also the main source of warmth for our planet. Artificial lights are designed to mimic parts of that spectrum, whether it's the warm glow of a bedside lamp or the bright white of an LED screen. Light also affects more than just sight. It plays a role in regulating your sleep cycle, your mood, and even how plants grow. In short, it's a key part of life. Understanding light helps explain everything from how a rainbow forms to why sunglasses work. Music. You hear it in the background at the grocery store, in your headphones during a walk, or blaring from a passing car. Music is everywhere. And yet, what you're hearing is simply organized sound. At its core, music is a structured sequence of vibrations. When an object vibrates, like a guitar string, a drum skin, or vocal cords, it pushes particles in the air, creating pressure waves. These waves travel to your ears, where your brain decodes them as sound. What makes it music, and not just noise, is how those sounds are arranged in patterns your brain can recognize: rhythm, melody, harmony. For example, tapping your fingers at even intervals is rhythm. Changing the pitch of those taps, like hitting a higher note after a lower one, creates melody. Stack a few notes together and you get harmony. Even without formal training, your brain detects these patterns and starts forming expectations. That's why you can often feel when a song is about to drop or resolve. Your brain is predicting the next sound. Different cultures and individuals might prefer different styles, but the building blocks are the same. Notes, timing, volume. All of it is just manipulating air to trigger a response in the brain. And that response isn't random. Music activates areas tied to emotion, memory, and even movement. That's why a certain song might make you feel something, help you remember a moment, or get you to tap your foot. So while music feels personal, underneath it is a universal process. Vibrations, patterns, and brain chemistry working together. It's one of the most complex things we experience, and we do it without even trying. Dreaming. You close your eyes at night, and hours later you wake up remembering something strange. Maybe you were flying, or back in school, or speaking a language you don't know. That's dreaming. Dreaming is what your brain does while you sleep, especially during a stage called REM, short for rapid eye movement. During REM sleep, your brain becomes more active. Your eyes move quickly under your eyelids, your heart rate increases slightly, and most of your muscles are temporarily turned off. This is when most vivid dreams happen. Even though your body is resting, your brain stays busy. It pulls from memory, emotion, recent experiences, and imagination, stitching these pieces together into scenes and events. That's why dreams often feel familiar, but also bizarre. They combine real elements in ways that wouldn't normally happen when you're awake. Not all dreams are stories. Some are just flashes of images or disconnected events. Others can feel realistic and follow a clear sequence like a short film. You might not remember most of them, but dreaming happens several times each night, during every REM cycle. Scientists still don't fully understand why we dream, but there are a few ideas. One is that dreams help your brain process emotions and experiences. Another is that they assist with memory, sorting, storing, and even rehearsing information. Some researchers also think dreams might be your brain's way of maintaining activity and checking its systems while the body rests. What's clear is that dreaming is a normal part of sleep. It shows that even when you're unconscious, your brain is still working, running simulations and blending thoughts in ways that don't follow everyday logic. You're not just resting, you're experiencing, even if you don't remember it. Memory. You remember where you parked your car, how to unlock your phone, or the name of someone you just met, all thanks to memory. Memory is your brain's ability to store, keep, and bring back information. It's what allows you to carry experiences from one moment into the next. There are different types of memory, and they work together constantly, often without you noticing. The process starts with encoding. When you see, hear, or do something, your brain takes in that information and begins turning it into a format it can use. For example, when you read a new phone number, your brain temporarily holds it in short-term memory. This kind of memory lasts just seconds, unless you repeat or rehearse the information. If that information sticks, it moves into long-term memory. These are the memories that last for days, years, or even a lifetime, like how to ride a bike or your favorite teacher's voice. Long-term memory isn't stored in one place. Instead, it's distributed across different areas of the brain, linked through patterns of neural activity. Retrieval happens when your brain accesses that stored information. It could be automatic, like remembering how to brush your teeth, or effortful, like trying to recall what you ate last Tuesday. Sometimes memory is accurate, and sometimes details get filled in or left out, especially over time. Memory is flexible. It helps you learn from past experience, plan for the future, and make decisions. It's also highly influenced by attention, emotion, and repetition. You're more likely to remember something if it felt important, or if you encountered it more than once. From everyday tasks to personal history, memory is the system your brain uses to hold on to the past and make sense of the present. Deja vu. You're having a normal conversation, then suddenly you feel like you've had this exact moment before. That's deja vu. The strange, brief sensation that something completely new feels oddly familiar. Deja vu is a common mental glitch. Most people experience it at least once in their lives, often during ordinary, low-stress moments. The feeling usually lasts a few seconds, and then it passes without explanation. While it can feel uncanny, it's not a sign of anything serious for most people. Researchers believe deja vu is related to how the brain processes memory. Normally, when we experience something new, our brain categorizes and stores that information as a fresh event. But occasionally, a small delay or misfire in the brain's memory systems may cause new information to be processed as if it's already been stored. In other words, the brain momentarily confuses a new experience for a memory. One explanation suggests that deja vu happens when there's a split-second delay between different parts of the brain processing the same event. For example, if one side registers what you're seeing slightly ahead of the other, the second signal might feel like a memory, even though it's happening in real time. Another theory is that deja vu might be triggered when a current scene shares subtle similarities with something you've experienced before, even if you don't consciously remember it. A similar layout, sound, or smell could activate the brain's familiarity circuits without a specific memory to match. While there's still more to learn about it, deja vu appears to be a harmless byproduct of how the brain manages perception and memory. It's a quick reminder that even familiar experiences can come from unexpected brain shortcuts. Sleep. Every night, your body shuts down for hours. But during that time, your brain is hard at work. Sleep is a natural state of rest where your body becomes less responsive to the environment, and your brain follows a structured cycle of activity. It's not just about recharging energy. Sleep plays a critical role in memory, physical repair, emotional balance, and cognitive function. There are two main types of sleep: non-REM and REM, as mentioned earlier. You cycle through them in roughly 90-minute intervals. Non-REM sleep includes deep, restorative stages where the body repairs tissues and strengthens the immune system. During REM, the brain becomes active while your muscles remain mostly still. This phase helps with learning, emotional processing, and problem solving. Throughout the night, your brain uses sleep as a kind of housekeeping tool. It consolidates information from the day, flushes out metabolic waste, and regulates hormones like melatonin and cortisol. Without enough sleep, these systems start to break down, affecting your mood, focus, and even your metabolism. Sleep isn't controlled by a single switch. It's regulated by your circadian rhythm, a 24-hour internal clock, and sleep pressure, which builds the longer you stay awake. When both align, your body naturally feels ready for rest. Common disruptions like bright screens, caffeine, or stress can interfere with these systems, making it harder to fall or stay asleep. Over time, poor sleep quality can impact physical health just as much as diet or exercise. Sleep might feel passive, but it's actually one of the most active and complex processes your body performs, fine-tuned to keep you functioning, learning, and balanced every day. Flow state. You sit down to work, time passes without you noticing, and by the end, you've made real progress without feeling distracted. That's a flow state. Flow is a mental condition where your attention becomes fully absorbed in an activity. You're not multitasking or checking the clock. Your thoughts are focused, your actions feel smooth, and your mind isn't drifting. This happens when you're doing something that challenges you just enough to keep you engaged, not so hard that it's frustrating, and not so easy that it's boring. Flow can happen in many situations. It might be while writing, coding, drawing, or even playing a sport. The task usually has clear goals, immediate feedback, and requires concentration. For example, a musician practicing a piece might lose track of time, or someone solving a puzzle might forget about everything else until it's done. In the brain, flow involves a balance of chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine, which support focus and motivation, and a drop in activity in the parts responsible for self-monitoring. That's why people in flow often report losing awareness of themselves or their surroundings. They're fully in the task. Flow also depends on your environment. Interruptions, background noise, or frequent task switching can break it. That's why it's more likely to happen when you're alone, undistracted, and working with purpose. Some people even design their routines around maximizing flow by setting up quiet blocks of time or removing distractions. Flow is useful because it improves focus, efficiency, and satisfaction. People tend to perform better and feel more invested in what they're doing. It doesn't require talent, just the right conditions and a task that's worth your attention. Once those align, flow does the rest. Consciousness. Right now, you're watching this video, hearing this voice, processing what it means. That's consciousness in action. It's your ongoing experience of the world and yourself. At its most basic level, consciousness is your awareness. When you open your eyes and recognize your surroundings, when you feel hunger or remember where you left your keys, your brain is producing conscious experience. It combines what you sense with what you know and creates a moment-by-moment stream of awareness. That stream isn't all or nothing. There are levels to it. You can be fully alert, groggy, focused, distracted, or even asleep and dreaming. Each of those states reflects a different pattern of brain activity. For example, during deep sleep, your brain slows down and disconnects from sensory input. During dreams, it becomes internally active, generating vivid scenes and emotions without any outside trigger. When you're awake, consciousness links everything: your senses, your thoughts, your memories, your decisions. It also has limits. You're only aware of a small part of what your brain is doing. You're not conscious of your heart beating or your liver functioning, even though those are essential processes. Your brain filters out most background data and focuses attention on a few things at a time, like this screen, this sound, this explanation. Scientists still debate how the brain turns physical activity into conscious experience. But what's clear is that it depends on complex networks of neurons communicating rapidly. Damage to certain parts of the brain can change or reduce consciousness, while stimulation in others can restore it. So while the exact mechanism remains unclear, the function is clear. Consciousness lets you track the world around you, reflect on it, and respond, all in real time. Inner voice. You think about what to say before you say it, or replay a moment in your mind using words. That's your inner voice at work. The inner voice, also called internal monologue, is the verbal thinking you do inside your head. It's the mental narration that helps you reflect, plan, and make decisions. Most people experience it as silent speech, like talking to yourself, but without moving your mouth. This inner voice shows up in everyday moments. When you remind yourself of a task, weigh the pros and cons of a choice, or silently rehearse what you're going to say, you're using it. It helps structure your thoughts in language, making it easier to process information, solve problems, or regulate emotions. The inner voice is linked to a part of the brain involved in language and self-reflection. Children start to develop it as they grow, often talking out loud while playing or thinking, and then gradually internalizing that speech over time. Not everyone experiences it the same way. Some people hear it as a full conversation, others as fragments or single words. And some rely more on visual thinking than verbal thought. But for many, the inner voice plays a central role in how they interact with the world, helping them stay organized, manage stress, or prepare for social situations. At times, this voice can be helpful, like reminding you to stay calm before a presentation. Other times, it can become overly critical or repetitive, especially during moments of stress or self-doubt. Recognizing when it's guiding you versus when it's getting in your way is part of learning how to manage it. Your inner voice is one of the tools your brain uses to navigate daily life, quietly shaping your actions, reactions, and decisions from the inside out. Vibe. You walk into a room, and before anyone says a word, you can already sense how it feels. That first impression, the energy, the mood, is what people often refer to as the vibe. A vibe is a combination of subtle cues that your brain picks up without needing conscious thought. It can come from body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, lighting, background noise, or even how people are arranged in a space. All of these signals combine to give you an immediate sense of the environment or the people in it. For example, if you walk into a cafe and it's filled with soft music, low lighting, and quiet conversation, the vibe might feel calm and relaxing. If it's loud, crowded, and brightly lit, the vibe might feel energetic or chaotic. The same goes for people. You might meet someone who seems upbeat and warm, or another person who seems closed off and tense, all before they've said much at all. The idea of a vibe is subjective, but most people are surprisingly consistent in how they interpret the same signals. That's because our brains are wired to read social and environmental cues quickly, to figure out what's going on and how to respond. Vibes can also change quickly. One comment or action can shift the energy in a room. That's why people often say someone killed the vibe or brought good energy. These phrases describe a change in the emotional atmosphere that others can feel, even if they can't fully explain why. In everyday life, we use the idea of vibes to guide social behavior, adjust our reactions, or decide whether we want to stay or leave, often without realizing we're doing it. Flirting. Flirting is something most people experience, whether they realize it or not. It's the playful, often subtle way people signal interest in someone they're attracted to. At its core, flirting is a form of social communication. It can include a smile that lasts a little longer, light teasing, compliments, changes in tone of voice, or slightly more eye contact than usual. These behaviors aren't random. They're often used to test whether someone else might be interested without making a direct move. From an evolutionary standpoint, flirting likely developed as a way to signal romantic or sexual interest in a low-risk way. Instead of outright declaring feelings, people use indirect cues to gauge response. If the reaction is positive, it can lead to more open interaction. If not, both people can move on with minimal awkwardness. Flirting can happen through body language, speech, or even over text. In person, things like mirroring someone's movements, laughing a bit too easily, or lightly touching the arm during conversation can be part of it. Over text, it might show up as playful banter, emojis, or quick replies. Importantly, not all flirting is about starting a relationship. Sometimes it's just social, a way to build connection, express charm, or have fun. That's why it can be hard to tell if someone is flirting or just being friendly. Cultural norms also influence what flirting looks like and how obvious or subtle it tends to be. Overall, flirting is a mix of social cues, emotional awareness, and timing. It plays a key role in human bonding and attraction, but it doesn't follow a strict formula. Everyone does it a little differently, which is why it's often recognized more by feel than by definition. Yawning. You're tired, bored, or just saw someone else do it, and suddenly you yawn. Yawning is a reflex where you take a deep breath in through your mouth, stretch your jaw, and then slowly exhale. It's one of the most common yet mysterious bodily behaviors. Almost every person does it several times a day, and it even shows up in animals, from dogs to birds to fish. The basic physical act of yawning increases airflow into your lungs and stretches the muscles around your face and neck. This might help regulate brain temperature, refresh alertness, or improve oxygen flow, though scientists still debate the exact reason. What's clear is that yawning often happens when you're transitioning between states of alertness, like waking up, getting tired, or feeling mentally disengaged. One interesting aspect of yawning is how contagious it is. Seeing someone yawn, hearing a yawn, or even reading about it can trigger the same reaction in you. This might be linked to social bonding. Some researchers believe it's tied to empathy, your brain picking up on and mirroring the state of others, like a nonverbal signal of shared experience. You'll also notice yawning when you're trying to stay awake during a long meeting or when your brain is struggling to stay attentive. In these moments, yawning may act like a small reset button, helping boost your alertness, even if only slightly. While we don't fully understand all the mechanisms behind yawning, it clearly serves a range of functions that go beyond just feeling tired. It's a simple, automatic act that reflects both the body's internal rhythms and its connection to the social environment around you. Goosebumps. You feel a chill or hear a powerful piece of music, and suddenly, tiny bumps rise on your skin. Goosebumps are a physical reaction that happens when small muscles at the base of your hair follicles contract. These muscles are called erector pili, and when they tighten, they cause the hairs on your skin to stand up, creating a bumpy texture. This reaction is automatic and controlled by your nervous system. Originally, this response served a practical purpose in animals. Raising the fur traps more air, creating insulation and helping regulate body temperature. It also makes animals appear slightly larger when threatened. Humans don't have thick fur anymore, but the reaction remains, even though it's no longer useful for warmth or defense in the same way. In people, goosebumps are usually triggered by two main things: cold and strong emotions. When you step outside on a chilly morning, your body tries to conserve heat by triggering this ancient response. But interestingly, intense emotional experiences, like fear, awe, or inspiration, can cause the same physical change. That's why you might get goosebumps during a dramatic movie scene, or while listening to music that moves you. This reaction is tied to the body's fight or flight system. When your brain senses something emotionally powerful, it releases stress hormones like adrenaline. These chemicals prime your body to respond, which includes activating the muscles that cause goosebumps. While goosebumps might seem like a small detail, they're a leftover signal from our evolutionary past. And even though we don't need them to stay warm or scare off predators, they still reflect how deeply the body and mind are connected, showing up in moments of cold, emotion, or surprise. Taste. You take a bite of something sweet, salty, or sour, and instantly know how it tastes. Taste is your brain's way of interpreting chemical signals from food. It's one of the 5 basic senses and starts with the taste buds on your tongue. These small receptors detect 5 main types of taste: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, which is the savory flavor found in foods like soy sauce or cooked meat. Each taste bud contains dozens of receptor cells that respond to specific molecules. For example, sugar molecules trigger sweet receptors, while sodium ions activate salty ones. When food molecules dissolve in saliva, they come into contact with these receptors, which then send signals through the nervous system to your brain, particularly the gustatory cortex. That's where the taste is identified and interpreted. But taste doesn't work alone. What we think of as flavor is actually a combination of taste and smell. If you hold your nose while eating, you'll notice how muted the flavor becomes. The texture, temperature, and even sound of food also affect how we perceive it. A crunchy chip feels different than a smooth pudding, and your brain takes all of that into account. Your ability to taste can also be influenced by health, age, and environment. Taste buds can become less sensitive over time, and temporary changes, like being sick or taking certain medications, can dull your sense of taste. Although taste evolved as a survival tool to help us detect nutrients or avoid toxins, today it plays a much bigger role in daily life, influencing what we enjoy, how we eat, and even how we connect with others through shared meals. Headache. It's something most people have felt. A dull ache behind the eyes, a pressure on the temples, or a pounding sensation across the forehead. That's a headache, one of the most common physical discomforts in everyday life. A headache isn't pain coming from the brain itself. The brain has no pain receptors. Instead, the pain usually comes from tissues surrounding the brain: muscles, blood vessels, nerves, or the lining around the skull. When these structures are irritated, inflamed, or strained, they send signals to the brain that we interpret as pain. There are many different types of headaches, but the most common is a tension headache. These are usually caused by stress, dehydration, poor posture, or even eye strain from looking at screens for too long. The muscles in the head, neck, or shoulders may tighten, and this muscle tension can lead to the familiar squeezing sensation. Another common type is a migraine. Migraines are more intense and often come with other symptoms like nausea, light sensitivity, or visual disturbances. Scientists believe migraines involve changes in brain activity and blood flow, along with chemical fluctuations that affect pain pathways. External triggers also play a role. Lack of sleep, skipped meals, loud noises, bright lights, or hormonal changes can all contribute. Even certain smells or foods can bring one on for some people. To manage a headache, most people rely on rest, hydration, or over-the-counter pain relievers. But long-term, paying attention to the body's warning signs, like tension or fatigue, can help reduce how often headaches show up. Headaches are a signal that something in your body or environment is off, and understanding how they work is the first step toward managing them more effectively. Aging. Every day, your body changes, not always in ways you notice, but over time, those changes add up. That's aging. Aging is the gradual process by which your body's cells and systems slow down, wear out, or become less efficient. It starts the moment you're born and continues through every stage of life. From a biological perspective, aging is driven by tiny changes inside your cells. As cells divide, they accumulate damage. Some of this damage comes from normal activity, some from environmental stressors, like UV light or pollution. Over time, these small breakdowns affect how well your body functions. One clear sign of aging is in your skin, wrinkles, dryness, and thinning. Internally, your muscles lose mass, bones become less dense, and organs may not perform as sharply as they once did. Your immune system also weakens, and the brain's processing speed can slow. These shifts don't happen all at once, but they form a slow, ongoing pattern that everyone experiences. On a molecular level, structures called telomeres, caps at the ends of your DNA strands, shorten with each cell division. When they get too short, cells stop dividing or die, which contributes to the physical effects of aging. Lifestyle also plays a role. Diet, exercise, sleep, and stress levels can influence how quickly or slowly aging shows up. That's why two people the same age can appear or feel very different, depending on how their bodies have been treated over time. While aging is a natural biological process, researchers continue to explore ways to delay its effects, from skincare to genetic therapies. But at its core, aging is simply the body's way of changing, adapting, and gradually slowing down over time. Magnets. You've probably used magnets today without even noticing. On your fridge door, in your phone speaker, or when snapping earbuds into place. A magnet is any material that produces a magnetic field, which is a kind of invisible force that can attract or repel certain objects, mainly metals like iron, nickel, or cobalt. Most of the magnets we encounter are made from special materials that keep their magnetic properties for a long time. These are called permanent magnets. Magnets always have two poles, a north and a south. If you bring two magnets close together, the opposite poles will attract, and the same poles will push away from each other. This is a predictable and consistent interaction, which is why magnets are useful in everything from toys to industrial machines. One everyday use is in electric motors, like those in fans, washing machines, and even electric cars. These motors rely on magnets to create motion by converting electrical energy into mechanical energy. That's also how speakers work. A small coil and a magnet work together to create vibrations that turn electrical signals into sound. Magnets are also used in data storage. Hard drives, for instance, use magnetic fields to record information in tiny areas that can be turned on or off magnetically. Even your phone's compass app depends on Earth's magnetic field, using a tiny magnetic sensor to detect direction. Then there are electromagnets, which are made by running electricity through a wire. Unlike permanent magnets, they can be turned on or off with a switch. These are found in MRI machines, scrapyard cranes, and electric bells. Magnets may feel simple, but they quietly power and connect many things you use every day, from your appliances to the way your data is stored and retrieved. Time. You check the clock before heading out, set alarms, and make appointments. That's time organizing your day. Time is simply the way we measure change. When something moves, grows, or happens, we recognize it over time. It gives structure to events so we can place them in order. What came before, what's happening now, and what's coming next. The most basic way we track time is with regular, repeating patterns. A day is one full rotation of Earth. A year is one full trip around the sun. These natural cycles became the foundation for calendars and clocks. When you glance at your watch or phone, you're looking at a system humans built to divide these cycles into smaller, manageable parts. Hours, minutes, and seconds. We also experience time in a personal way. Waiting 5 minutes in traffic can feel much longer than 5 minutes scrolling on your phone. That's because how we feel time passing doesn't always match the clock. Our attention, emotions, and activity level can all influence how we perceive it. In daily life, we rely on time to stay coordinated. Buses run on schedules, classes start at set hours. Even cooking dinner depends on timers. Time allows people to plan, meet, and work together in sync. Over the years, time also helps us track growth and progress. Birthdays mark age. Calendars help remember past events. We use timelines to understand history and deadlines to get things done. In short, time is a system we use to organize change, keep life running smoothly, and make sense of what's happening around us. Money. You use it to buy groceries, pay rent, or split the bill at dinner. Money is a tool that helps people exchange value. At its core, money is anything that people agree can be used to buy goods or services. It solves a basic problem. Without money, we'd need to trade one item for another, like swapping shoes for vegetables. That's called bartering, and it only works when both sides want what the other has. Money removes that barrier. You sell your time or skills for money, then use that money to buy what you need. Most modern money comes in the form of coins, paper bills, or digital numbers in a bank account, but what gives it value isn't the material itself, it's trust. People accept money because they believe others will also accept it. That trust is supported by governments, banks, and economic systems that regulate how money is created and managed. There are different types of money. Physical cash is used for quick purchases. Bank deposits let you make transfers, use debit cards, or shop online. Digital wallets and payment apps have made money even more flexible, allowing instant transfers between people without cash ever changing hands. Behind the scenes, central banks manage how much money flows through the economy. They adjust interest rates, issue currency, and try to keep inflation stable. Too much money can lead to prices rising. Too little, and the economy can slow down. Money also plays a psychological role. People save it for security, spend it for comfort, and often tie it to success or freedom. But its function remains simple. It's a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value that keeps our daily transactions running smoothly. Algorithm. Every time you scroll through your favorite app or search for something online, you're interacting with an algorithm. It's a part of your digital routine, whether you notice it or not. An algorithm is simply a set of instructions that tells a computer what steps to follow to solve a specific problem or complete a task. It's like a recipe, but for data. Instead of flour and sugar, it works with numbers, text, clicks, or any kind of digital information. For example, when you open a video platform and see recommendations, that's an algorithm deciding what you might want to watch next. It looks at what you've watched before, how long you watched it, what others with similar habits are watching, and then arranges the options for you. The goal is to make the experience feel personal and efficient. Algorithms aren't just for content suggestions. They power search engines, sort your emails, block spam, adjust your GPS route in traffic, and even help decide what shows up in your social media feed. In online shopping, an algorithm suggests items based on what you viewed or purchased. In streaming apps, it helps decide which movie trailers you see. They can be simple or complex, depending on the task. A basic algorithm might sort numbers from smallest to largest. A more advanced one could analyze millions of photos to recognize a face. While they operate behind the scenes, algorithms shape a lot of what we see and do online. They're not perfect, but they are designed to help organize overwhelming amounts of information in a way that's useful and fast. In everyday digital life, algorithms quietly guide what's shown to us, what's hidden, and what's prioritized, all based on patterns and rules programmed into them. Wi-Fi. You unlock your phone, tap an app, and a second later, you're watching a video. That's Wi-Fi at work, letting devices connect to the internet without using cables. Wi-Fi is a way of sending and receiving data using radio waves. Instead of plugging your phone or laptop into a wire, your device connects to a router. That router is plugged into the internet through a cable, but it broadcasts a wireless signal that your device can pick up. Think of the router as a small radio tower inside your home. Inside the router, data comes from your internet provider through a wired connection. The router then converts that data into a wireless signal and sends it out in all directions. When your device is in range, it listens for that signal and responds. This back and forth exchange lets you stream videos, load websites, or send messages. Wi-Fi doesn't travel very far, usually just within a house or building. That's why when you leave home, your phone switches to mobile data. Thick walls or interference from other electronics can also weaken the signal. Most homes and public spaces use Wi-Fi because it's simple and efficient. You can connect multiple devices at once, and you don't have to run cables everywhere. Routers can also use different frequency bands, like 2.4 GHz or 5 GHz, which affect speed and range. Higher frequencies offer faster speeds but work best at shorter distances. Wi-Fi is updated over time with newer standards that improve speed and reliability. These updates help keep up with the growing demand from devices like smart TVs, game consoles, and even appliances. From scrolling social media to downloading large files, Wi-Fi is the invisible link that makes internet access fast, easy, and wireless inside your everyday spaces. Fiber optics. When you stream a movie or join a video call without any lag, there's a good chance fiber optics are making that possible. Fiber optics is a method of transmitting information using thin strands of glass or plastic called optical fibers. These strands are thinner than a human hair and are designed to carry data in the form of light. Instead of using electricity like traditional copper cables, fiber optics use light signals to move large amounts of data quickly and over long distances. Each fiber is made of two main parts: the core, where the light travels, and the cladding, which keeps the light contained by reflecting it inward. This design allows the light to bounce along the fiber in a controlled path, even around curves, without escaping. Because light moves extremely fast, fiber optic cables can transmit data much more efficiently than regular wires. In everyday use, fiber optics are commonly found in high-speed internet connections. When you load a website or send a message, your data travels through a network of fiber optic cables that connect homes, offices, and servers around the world. These cables can run underground, underwater, or through buildings, delivering stable and fast connections. Fiber optics are also used in other areas like medical imaging devices and some types of lighting systems. But their biggest impact has been in telecommunications, where they have replaced older systems that couldn't keep up with the growing demand for faster and more reliable internet. Because of their speed and efficiency, fiber optic networks have become the backbone of modern communication. Whether you're streaming, downloading, or just checking your email, fiber optics help deliver the data quickly and clearly. Self-driving. You may have seen a car driving itself through traffic with no hands on the wheel. That's a self-driving car. Self-driving, or autonomous driving, refers to a vehicle that can operate without direct human input. Instead of relying on a driver, the car uses a combination of sensors, software, and maps to understand its surroundings and make decisions on the road. The system starts with sensors placed around the vehicle. These include cameras that recognize traffic lights, pedestrians, and road signs. There are also radar sensors that track the speed and distance of nearby objects, and LiDAR sensors that use laser light to map the shape and distance of surrounding structures. All this information is fed into a computer inside the car. The software processes it in real time, identifying other vehicles, reading lane markings, and planning a safe route. It can steer, accelerate, and brake automatically, responding to changes in traffic just like a human would, sometimes even faster. For example, in stop-and-go traffic, a self-driving car can follow the car in front, maintain a safe distance, and stop when needed. On highways, it can stay in its lane, change lanes when necessary, and adjust its speed based on traffic flow. Some cars can even park themselves. There are different levels of self-driving capability, ranging from basic driver assistance to full autonomy. Most systems today still require a human to be ready to take over. Fully autonomous vehicles, with no steering wheel or driver at all, are still being tested. Self-driving technology aims to reduce accidents, improve traffic flow, and make transportation more accessible. While it's still evolving, many modern cars already include partial automation features that bring us closer to a future where vehicles can drive themselves safely and reliably. Complex human states explained. Curiosity. You come across an unfamiliar word, a strange sound, or a notification you weren't expecting, and suddenly you want to know more. That's curiosity at work. Curiosity is your brain's natural response to gaps in knowledge. It happens when you notice something that doesn't quite make sense, or when you realize there's more to learn about something you already know. It's not just a feeling. It's a built-in system that helps you pay attention, ask questions, and seek out new information. This process starts early. Infants are curious by nature. They touch, stare, and explore constantly. As you grow up, the situations become more complex, but the underlying drive is the same. You might look up a how-to video, read a product review before buying something, or wonder how a feature on your phone works. Curiosity pushes you to fill in the blanks. In the brain, curiosity activates areas tied to learning and reward. When you discover the answer to something you're curious about, your brain responds positively, similar to how it reacts to food or music. This makes learning more enjoyable and easier to remember. There are different types of curiosity. Sometimes it's about solving a specific problem, like figuring out why your computer won't connect to Wi-Fi. Other times, it's more open-ended, like browsing random facts online or exploring a topic just because it's interesting. Curiosity also plays a role in creativity, science, relationships, and even decision-making. It helps you adapt, stay flexible, and discover new ways to approach familiar problems. While not every question leads to a big breakthrough, each one keeps your brain active and engaged. Curiosity is a basic part of how you learn, explore, and connect with the world around you, and it happens more often than you might notice. Focus. You're trying to read a message, finish a task, or follow along with a conversation, and your ability to do that depends on focus. Focus is your brain's way of selecting one thing to pay attention to while filtering out everything else. It's how you block out background noise when listening to someone talk, or stay on a task even when your phone lights up. Without focus, even simple activities become harder to complete. This process starts in your brain's attention system. When something matters, like a deadline, a loud sound, or a moving object, your brain shifts resources toward it. That's why focus feels sharp when you're interested or under pressure, and harder to hold when you're tired or distracted. Your surroundings, energy levels, and even stress can all affect how well you focus. There are two types of attention: selective and sustained. Selective attention is what happens when you choose to zero in on one thing, like reading a sentence while ignoring background chatter. Sustained attention is what allows you to stay focused over time, like working through a project without switching tasks every few minutes. Your brain also has to work against distractions, notifications, hunger, noise, or even your own thoughts can compete for your attention. Multitasking might seem efficient, but switching between tasks breaks focus and reduces accuracy. Training focus is possible. Techniques like working in short bursts, taking breaks, or removing distractions can help. Activities that demand concentration, like puzzles or certain games, also strengthen attention over time. Focus is not just about willpower. It's a function of how your brain manages resources in real time. The better it handles noise, the clearer your attention becomes. And that clarity is what makes learning, decision-making, and productivity possible. Creativity. You use creativity more often than you might realize. Like when you solve a problem, try a new recipe, or even pick an outfit that feels just right. Creativity is the ability to generate something original by combining existing ideas in a new way. It's not limited to artists or musicians. It shows up in everyday decision-making, from how you organize your schedule to how you explain something to a friend. It's a flexible mental process that allows you to adapt, improvise, and make connections between things that don't obviously belong together. At its core, creativity involves two basic steps: coming up with ideas and evaluating whether they work. You might think of 5 ways to fix a leaky faucet, but choose the one that uses what you already have at home. That process of generating and filtering options is creativity in action. Sometimes it happens quickly, like brainstorming lunch ideas when you're low on groceries. Other times, it builds gradually, like developing a new way to teach something or improving a personal routine over time. Creativity often benefits from constraints, such as limited time or resources, because they force you to think differently. Different people express creativity in different ways. Some through visuals, others through speech, movement, or even humor. It's not about being artistic. It's about finding new approaches in everyday life. Psychologists link creativity to both divergent thinking, coming up with many possibilities, and convergent thinking, narrowing them down to a useful one. The brain regions involved often overlap with those used in memory, emotion, and planning. Creativity is not a fixed trait, but a skill that can grow with practice. It plays a role in innovation, self-expression, and problem-solving, making it one of the most practical and versatile abilities we use day to day. Overthinking. You replay a conversation in your head, revise a text 5 times before sending it, or can't stop weighing every possible outcome. That's overthinking. Overthinking happens when your mind gets stuck in a loop of analysis, second-guessing, or prediction. It's not the same as being thoughtful or careful. Overthinking takes a simple thought or decision and stretches it out longer than it needs to be, often without reaching a clear conclusion. It can show up in 2 main forms. The first is rumination, going over something that already happened, like a mistake or an awkward moment. The second is worry, imagining what could go wrong in the future. In both cases, your brain is trying to problem solve, but instead of moving forward, it circles the same points repeatedly. This mental looping uses up attention and energy. It can make decision-making harder, not easier. For example, if you're overthinking what to wear to an event, you might waste time swapping options without ever feeling confident. Or if you're overthinking an email, you may delay sending it entirely. Overthinking is linked to anxiety and stress. When the brain senses uncertainty or risk, it starts scanning for possible issues. This can be useful in moderation, but when it becomes excessive, it disrupts focus, sleep, and performance. You might lie awake at night, going over a situation that has no clear solution. Some people are more prone to overthinking than others, depending on personality, mood, or recent experiences. But it's also influenced by habits and environment. Constant decision fatigue, information overload, or social pressure can all make it worse. Overthinking feels like trying to prepare or protect yourself, but often it just adds mental weight. Recognizing the pattern is the first step in learning how to break it. Self-awareness. You catch yourself talking too loudly in a quiet room, or realize your tone came off differently than you meant. That's self-awareness in action. Self-awareness is your ability to notice what you're thinking, feeling, or doing while it's happening. It's what allows you to monitor your own behavior, compare it to your intentions, and make adjustments. In simple terms, it's being aware of yourself from the inside and also imagining how others might be seeing you from the outside. There are 2 main types. Internal self-awareness is about recognizing your own thoughts, emotions, and habits. For example, realizing that you're feeling impatient in a meeting or that you tend to avoid difficult conversations. External self-awareness is about understanding how your actions affect others, like noticing that your comment made someone uncomfortable, even if you didn't mean to. This ability develops over time. Children gradually start recognizing themselves in mirrors and become more aware of their actions. Adults use self-awareness to navigate social situations, stay aligned with their values, or evaluate how they're doing at work or in relationships. Self-awareness doesn't mean overanalyzing. It's not the same as constantly second-guessing yourself. Instead, it helps you pause, notice, and choose how to respond. For instance, you might recognize that you're reacting defensively in a conversation, and then decide to slow down and explain your point more clearly. In the brain, self-awareness involves systems tied to memory, attention, and social reasoning. It's active when you reflect, plan, or think about yourself in relation to others. It's also a key part of emotional intelligence, helping you manage reactions and understand where others are coming from. Self-awareness isn't about perfection. It's a practical tool that helps you notice what's going on inside and adjust how you move through the world. Rumination. You replay a conversation in your head, thinking about what you should have said or done differently. That pattern of repetitive thinking is called rumination. Rumination happens when your mind gets stuck reviewing the same thought or event over and over without reaching a solution. It usually centers around something negative, like a mistake, a conflict, or an embarrassing moment. Instead of moving on, your brain loops the situation, analyzing it from every angle. This kind of thinking can feel like problem solving, but it's not the same. Problem solving moves toward action or resolution. Rumination stays stuck in reflection. For example, if you sent a message and didn't get a reply, your mind might start repeating the scenario. Did I say something wrong? Should I have worded it differently? What do they think of me now? The more it loops, the more it fuels stress or frustration. Rumination is common and often triggered by stress, uncertainty, or emotional discomfort. It's especially linked to anxiety and depression, where the mind searches for control or clarity, but ends up reinforcing negative feelings instead. What makes rumination different from regular thinking is the lack of new insight. You're not learning from the thought, you're stuck in it. This can impact sleep, focus, and mood. People may even ruminate about the fact that they're ruminating, which creates more mental tension. Managing rumination often involves redirecting attention to the present moment, changing environments, or engaging in tasks that require focus. Talking thoughts through with someone else can also help break the cycle by introducing a new perspective. Rumination doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It's a habit the brain sometimes uses to process discomfort. And like any habit, it can be noticed, understood, and eventually interrupted. Procrastination. You sit down to start a task, open your phone for a second, and suddenly an hour has passed. That's procrastination. Procrastination is the habit of delaying something even when you know it's important. It's not about laziness. Most people who procrastinate care about getting things done. They just have trouble starting or following through. The brain tends to favor short-term comfort over long-term benefit, so it shifts toward easier or more pleasant activities when faced with something challenging. At its core, procrastination is a kind of emotional regulation. You might put off an assignment because it feels overwhelming, boring, or uncertain. So instead, your brain looks for something that feels better right now, like watching a video, reorganizing your desk, or checking messages. It's a temporary relief from discomfort, but it often leads to more stress later. Procrastination can take different forms. There's classic avoidance, skipping the task entirely. There's delay by distraction, doing something else that feels productive but isn't urgent. And then there's perfectionist delay, holding off because you feel like you're not ready to do it just right. It's also influenced by how you perceive the task. If something feels unclear, too big, or not personally meaningful, the brain may treat it like a threat and steer away from it. That's why even smart, capable people procrastinate. It's not about skill, it's about how the task feels emotionally. Breaking procrastination often starts with making tasks feel smaller, clearer, or more manageable. Setting a short timer, simplifying the first step, or changing your environment can help the brain shift out of avoidance mode. Procrastination isn't a sign of failure. It's a common response to discomfort, and once you understand it, you can start making choices that keep you moving forward. Confidence. You walk into a room, speak up in a meeting, or try something new without hesitation. That's confidence at work. Confidence is your belief in your ability to handle a situation. It's not about knowing everything or being perfect. It's about trusting that you can figure things out as you go. This trust comes from experience, preparation, and sometimes just a willingness to try. There are different types of confidence. Task-specific confidence shows up when you've practiced something, like giving a presentation or fixing a bike. You've done it before, so you feel capable. Then there's general self-confidence, a broader sense that you can handle challenges, even unfamiliar ones. Confidence isn't fixed. It can grow over time, and it can change depending on the situation. Someone might feel confident at work, but nervous in social settings, or confident giving advice, but unsure when asking for help. It shifts based on context, feedback, and mindset. A big part of confidence is how you interpret mistakes. People who build confidence tend to treat setbacks as part of the process, not proof that they should stop trying. For example, if someone messes up while learning to cook, they adjust and try again, instead of deciding they're just bad at it. Body language, preparation, and past success all play a role. Even small wins, like speaking up in a group or completing a difficult task, reinforce the idea that you can handle more than you think. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel doubt. It means you don't let doubt stop you. It's a skill, not a personality trait, and like any skill, it gets stronger the more you use it in real-world situations. Willpower. You wake up early to exercise, even when you'd rather sleep in. That's willpower in action. Willpower is the mental ability to resist short-term temptations in order to meet long-term goals. It's what helps you delay gratification, stay on track, and stick with decisions that aren't always easy in the moment. Whether it's avoiding junk food, finishing a project, or turning off your phone to focus, willpower plays a role. It's often compared to a muscle because it can feel stronger or weaker depending on how much you use it. If you've spent the day making tough decisions or fighting off distractions, your willpower might feel depleted by evening. That's why self-control can seem easier at the start of the day than at the end. But willpower isn't just about saying no. It's also about staying committed to a yes. It helps you take action toward things that matter, even when you're tired, bored, or discouraged. For example, a student using willpower might choose to study instead of watching TV, because finishing that exam is more important in the long run. Interestingly, studies show that willpower can be influenced by how you think about it. If you believe it's limited, you're more likely to feel drained quickly. But if you treat it as something flexible, like a skill you can train, it tends to last longer. That's why habits, structure, and environment matter. They reduce the need for constant self-control by making good choices easier to repeat. Willpower isn't about being strict or harsh with yourself. It's about guiding your behavior with intention, even when distractions or impulses show up. And like any form of strength, it improves with practice and consistency over time. Butterflies in the stomach. You've probably felt it before. A strange flutter in your stomach right before a big event, an interview, or meeting someone important. That sensation is what we call butterflies in the stomach. It's a real physical response triggered by your body's stress system. When you're nervous or excited, your brain activates the fight or flight response. This is an ancient survival mechanism designed to prepare your body for action. One of the first things it does is release a surge of adrenaline. Adrenaline increases your heart rate, tenses your muscles, and redirects blood flow away from systems that aren't essential in a crisis, like digestion, and toward areas that help you respond quickly, like your muscles. That sudden shift in blood flow is what causes the unusual feeling in your gut. The stomach gets less circulation, which can lead to a hollow, fluttery, or uneasy sensation. The nerves in your gut are also very sensitive to emotional changes. In fact, your gastrointestinal system is closely linked to your brain through what's called the gut-brain axis. That means your stomach often responds immediately to emotional signals. It's why stress can cause nausea, or why excitement can make you lose your appetite. This sensation is most common in situations that involve social pressure, performance, or uncertainty. Things like public speaking, first dates, or major decisions. Your body is reacting as if something important is about to happen, even if you're not in any real danger. While it might feel uncomfortable in the moment, butterflies in the stomach are simply a side effect of your body preparing you to perform, adapt, or pay closer attention in unpredictable situations. Empathy. You've probably felt it before. Someone else is upset, and suddenly you feel a bit of that emotion too. That's empathy. It's the ability to understand and share what someone else is going through, even if you're not in their situation. Empathy isn't just being nice or polite. It's a built-in response that helps us connect with others. When you see a friend stressed before a big presentation and your stomach knots up a little, that's your brain simulating their experience. You're not just observing, you're internally mirroring their emotional state. This happens because of how our brains are wired. Certain cells called mirror neurons activate when we see someone experiencing something, especially emotions. These neurons allow us to mentally step into another person's shoes. It's not perfect, but it gives us a rough version of their feelings. Empathy comes in different forms. Cognitive empathy is when you understand what someone is feeling. Emotional empathy is when you actually feel some version of their emotion. Then there's compassionate empathy, when that feeling moves you to help. Everyday examples are everywhere. When you slow down to comfort someone who's had a bad day, or when you wince watching someone trip. Those small reactions are built on empathy. It helps people form friendships, support each other, and function in social groups. But empathy isn't automatic all the time. Stress, fatigue, or even unfamiliarity can reduce how empathetic we feel in a given moment. Still, it's a skill that can be strengthened with awareness and practice. Empathy isn't just an emotional response. It's a mental tool that helps us understand one another and build better social connections. Anxiety. You've probably felt it before. A tight chest, racing thoughts, maybe a knot in your stomach before a big meeting or unexpected phone call. That's anxiety. It's your body and brain reacting to a perceived threat, even if nothing dangerous is actually happening. At its core, anxiety is a survival mechanism. It's part of the body's stress response system, often referred to as fight or flight. When your brain senses something uncertain or risky, like speaking in front of a crowd or waiting for a medical result, it triggers this alert system. Hormones like adrenaline and cortisol are released, increasing your heart rate, sharpening your senses, and preparing your body to react. But anxiety isn't always tied to real danger. Sometimes, your brain interprets everyday situations, like running late, meeting someone new, or checking an unread email, as potential threats. That's when anxiety can feel overwhelming or irrational. The thoughts start spiraling, and the more you try to control them, the more intense they can become. Everyone experiences anxiety at different levels. For some, it's a temporary and helpful push to prepare or focus. For others, it can be persistent and disruptive. Physical symptoms might include sweating, dizziness, or difficulty concentrating. Mentally, it can feel like being stuck in a loop of what-if thoughts. It's also important to know that anxiety isn't always visible. People can appear calm on the outside while battling intense nervousness internally. And because the causes aren't always clear, it can be frustrating to explain or manage. Anxiety is a natural part of the human experience, a signal from your brain that it's trying to protect you, even if the threat isn't always real. Dopamine. You know that little surge of satisfaction you feel when you check off a task or get a message you've been waiting for? That's dopamine at work. Dopamine is a chemical produced in the brain that helps regulate motivation, reward, and pleasure. It's often described as the brain's feel-good signal, but it's more accurate to think of it as a learning and motivation molecule. It pushes you toward things that feel rewarding or beneficial, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. When you do something that your brain interprets as positive, like eating your favorite food, hitting a workout goal, or even just scrolling social media, dopamine is released. It tells your brain, "This was good. Let's remember this and do it again." That's why habits, both helpful and harmful, can become so hard to break. Dopamine also plays a role in anticipation. It's not just about the reward itself, but the build-up. That's why checking your phone over and over, even without notifications, can feel oddly compulsive. Your brain is wired to chase the potential reward. Too little dopamine can lead to a lack of motivation or interest in things you used to enjoy. Too much stimulation of the dopamine system, like with addictive behaviors, can lead to imbalance and burnout over time. It's important to know that dopamine isn't about non-stop pleasure. It's about drive and reinforcement. It helps you focus, learn from your actions, and build patterns of behavior that feel worth repeating. Whether you're setting a goal, craving a snack, or enjoying a moment of success, dopamine is in the background helping steer the experience. Serotonin. You know that steady, calm feeling you get when things feel okay. Not exciting, not thrilling, just peacefully okay? That feeling is often linked to serotonin. Serotonin is a chemical messenger, or neurotransmitter, used by the brain and body to help regulate mood, sleep, digestion, and even body temperature. While it's most known for its role in emotional balance, serotonin is found throughout the body, especially in the gut, where most of it is produced. In the brain, serotonin supports a sense of stability and contentment. It's not about motivation or reward like dopamine. Instead, it's more about maintaining balance. When your serotonin levels are in a healthy range, you're more likely to feel emotionally steady, less reactive to stress, and more resilient overall. Low levels of serotonin are associated with mood disorders like depression and anxiety. That's why many antidepressant medications are designed to increase the availability of serotonin in the brain, helping restore a better chemical balance. You can support serotonin production in natural ways. Exposure to sunlight, regular exercise, and eating foods that contain tryptophan, like eggs, cheese, or nuts, can all help. Tryptophan is an amino acid that the body uses to make serotonin. Unlike dopamine, serotonin isn't tied to quick bursts of satisfaction. It's more like a long-term mood regulator, helping you stay grounded and emotionally balanced. When you feel calm after a walk outside or relaxed after a meal, Serotonin is likely part of that experience. Understanding serotonin helps explain why some days feel emotionally easier than others, and why habits like sleeping well and spending time outdoors can have such a noticeable effect on how you feel throughout the day. DNA. Every cell in your body, from the ones in your skin to those in your brain, carries the same set of instructions. That instruction manual is called DNA. DNA, short for deoxyribonucleic acid, is the molecule that stores your biological blueprint. It tells your cells how to grow, how to function, and what traits to pass on. Your eye color, your blood type, and even the way your body processes certain foods are all influenced by your DNA. Think of DNA as a long chain made of 4 chemical letters: A, T, C, and G. These letters pair up in specific ways and are arranged in sequences that code for everything your body needs to build and maintain itself. A section of this code that carries a specific instruction is called a gene. You inherit your DNA from your parents, half from each. That's why you might share your dad's hair texture or your mum's smile. But beyond looks, DNA also carries information about your risk for certain health conditions or how you might respond to medications. Inside a cell, DNA is stored tightly in structures called chromosomes. Humans typically have 23 pairs of these. When cells divide, they copy their DNA so that each new cell has the same set of instructions. DNA doesn't just stay the same forever. Sometimes small changes, called mutations, happen. These can be harmless, helpful, or occasionally cause problems, depending on where they occur and what they affect. Scientists use DNA to study ancestry, solve crimes, and develop personalized medicine. It's also how modern genetic testing works. By analyzing just a tiny sample, labs can read parts of your DNA to uncover useful information about your body. Hormones. When you feel hungry, sleepy, stressed, or energized, there's a good chance hormones are involved. Hormones are chemical messengers made by glands in your body. They travel through your bloodstream and help control how different parts of your body work. Think of them as signals that tell your organs and systems what to do and when to do it. For example, insulin is a hormone that helps your body use or store sugar from food. If insulin doesn't work properly, your blood sugar stays high, which can lead to diabetes. Cortisol is another hormone released when you're under stress. It prepares your body to handle challenges by raising your alertness and energy levels. But if cortisol stays high for too long, it can wear your body down. Other hormones influence growth, mood, sleep, digestion, and even your body temperature. Melatonin helps you fall asleep at night. Thyroid hormones regulate how fast your body uses energy. Estrogen and testosterone help control sexual development and reproductive functions. Hormones don't act randomly. They're carefully regulated by a network called the endocrine system, which includes glands like the pituitary, thyroid, adrenal glands, pancreas, and reproductive organs. These glands work together to keep your body in balance, adjusting hormone levels as needed. Even small changes in hormone levels can have noticeable effects. That's why hormonal imbalances can lead to problems like fatigue, weight gain, mood swings, or skin issues. In many cases, doctors can run tests to check hormone levels and use treatments to bring them back into balance. Hormones are active from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, silently managing the inner workings of your body so you can respond, adapt, and function throughout your day. Love. Love is one of the most familiar emotions in daily life, whether it's a tight hug, a text from someone you care about, or the comfort of being around close friends and family. At its core, love is a biological and emotional state that helps humans bond and cooperate. It's not just one feeling, but a combination of behaviors and brain chemicals that support attachment, trust, and care. From an evolutionary perspective, love helped early humans form stable relationships, raise children together, and survive as social groups. When someone feels love, the brain activates several systems at once. Dopamine creates a sense of pleasure and motivation, making time with loved ones feel rewarding. Oxytocin and vasopressin are hormones that promote closeness and bonding, especially during physical touch like hugging or holding hands. These brain chemicals reinforce the connection and make people more likely to support and protect each other. Love isn't limited to romance. It appears in friendships, families, and even toward pets. The brain doesn't necessarily distinguish between these types. It adjusts the intensity and patterns depending on the context. For example, parental love activates similar pathways as romantic love, but with more focus on nurturing and less on desire. Cultural factors shape how people express love. In some places, it's shown through words and gifts. In others, through shared time or acts of service. But the feeling underneath, the drive to connect and care, is universal. While love may feel mysterious, it follows patterns that science can observe and explain. It's an essential part of how humans relate to each other, helping maintain relationships that make everyday life more secure, cooperative, and meaningful. Greed. Greed shows up in everyday moments, like grabbing more snacks than you need, holding on to money you could easily share, or constantly chasing the next upgrade. At its simplest, greed is an intense desire to have more than what is necessary or fair, especially when it comes to resources like money, food, power, or possessions. It's a natural impulse that likely evolved to help early humans survive. In environments where resources were limited, it made sense to gather and protect as much as possible. But in modern life, where basic needs are often met, this instinct can overshoot. For example, someone might keep accumulating wealth long after they have enough for a comfortable life. Or they might feel competitive in situations that don't require it, like wanting the newest phone just because it's newer, not because the old one stopped working. Greed also tends to ignore the impact on others. It can lead people to cut corners, avoid sharing, or take more than their fair share. In workplaces, it can show up as taking credit for others' ideas. In business, it can drive decisions that prioritize profit over ethics. While ambition and wanting more aren't bad on their own, greed often crosses the line when it disregards fairness or harms others. Interestingly, greed isn't always about material things. It can also show up in relationships, like craving attention, control, or validation beyond what's healthy. The brain's reward system plays a role here. Every time someone gets more of what they want, dopamine is released, reinforcing the behavior. That's why greedy behavior can be difficult to stop, even when it doesn't feel satisfying in the long run. Greed is a complex mix of instinct, emotion, and environment, and understanding it can help us spot the difference between healthy motivation and harmful excess. Dancing. Dancing is something most people do at some point, at a wedding, in a club, or even alone at home with music playing. At its simplest, dancing is the act of moving your body in rhythm with sound. What makes dancing unique is that it's not just movement. It's structured movement, usually tied to a beat or melody. Whether it's tapping your foot, swaying your arms, or performing a choreographed routine, dancing involves coordination between your brain, muscles, and sensory system. Your ears process the music, your brain interprets the rhythm, and your body responds with movement. Different cultures around the world have developed distinct dance styles, often tied to rituals, celebrations, or storytelling. For example, classical Indian dance involves specific hand gestures that convey meaning. Hip-hop emphasizes expressive, freestyle motion. Ballroom dances, like the waltz or tango, follow strict patterns and are done with a partner. Dancing also activates many parts of the brain. It requires spatial awareness, timing, and often memory, especially if you're following a routine. For this reason, it's used not only for entertainment, but also in therapy and exercise. It helps improve balance, flexibility, and coordination. Some people dance as a form of personal expression. Others do it as a way to socialize. In group settings, dancing helps build connection and unity. Think of crowds moving in sync at concerts or traditional circle dances during festivals. Even when there's no choreography or rules, dancing is still a powerful way to interact with music and with others. Whether casual or practiced, it's one of the most natural human responses to rhythm, combining motion, emotion, and sound in a way that feels both spontaneous and universal. Small talk. Small talk happens every day, in elevators, at bus stops, or while waiting in line. It's the light, casual conversation we use to fill silence or create a sense of comfort between people. At its core, small talk isn't about exchanging important information. It's more about building a basic social connection. Common topics include the weather, weekend plans, or shared surroundings. For example, you might comment on how cold it is outside, or ask someone if they've tried the coffee in the break room. These interactions may seem insignificant, but they serve a social function. When two people don't know each other well, silence can feel awkward. Small talk helps ease that tension. It shows you're open to interaction, even if just briefly. It's also a way to test the waters before a deeper conversation begins. In work settings, small talk often acts as a warm-up to meetings or collaborations, helping people feel more relaxed and cooperative. Some people find small talk boring or unnecessary, but studies in communication show it helps establish trust and friendliness, especially in group environments. Even a quick comment about the weather can make someone feel seen and acknowledged. Cultural differences also shape small talk. In some places, it's expected and even polite. In others, it may be seen as unnecessary. Regardless, the basic idea remains the same: to create a moment of shared experience, no matter how small. Small talk isn't about the topic itself. It's about signaling that you're approachable, aware, and willing to engage, even briefly. It might not lead to anything profound, but it lays the groundwork for smoother human interaction in everyday life. Loneliness. Loneliness is the feeling that something or someone is missing, even when you're surrounded by people. It's not just about being alone. It's about lacking meaningful connection. Most people experience loneliness at some point, after moving to a new city, during a breakup, or simply when a conversation feels empty. It can happen in a crowded office, at a party, or even at home with family. What triggers loneliness is not the number of people around you, but the quality of your social connection with them. From a psychological point of view, loneliness acts as a signal. Just like hunger tells you to eat, loneliness tells you to reconnect. Human brains evolved to rely on social bonds for safety and survival. So being disconnected can feel uncomfortable, even painful. Loneliness isn't always constant. It can come and go. But if it lasts too long, it can start to affect how a person sees the world. Someone who feels lonely might interpret neutral interactions as rejection or become more hesitant to reach out, which can make the problem worse. This is part of what makes chronic loneliness difficult to break. Technology also plays a role. Messaging apps and social media allow people to stay in touch, but they don't always lead to real connection. Scrolling through highlight reels of others' lives can make someone feel even more isolated. Combating loneliness often starts with small, consistent interactions, saying hello to a neighbor, joining a group, or having a short conversation with someone familiar. It's less about having dozens of relationships and more about having a few that feel safe and real. Loneliness is common, but understanding what causes it and how it works is the first step toward finding relief. Nostalgia. You might be listening to an old song or smelling something familiar, and suddenly, your mind drifts back to a specific moment from the past. That feeling is nostalgia, a mental and emotional reaction triggered by memories that meant something to you. Nostalgia is the brain's way of revisiting experiences that are stored deep in long-term memory. These moments are usually linked to strong emotions, like comfort, joy, or a sense of belonging. When something in the present reminds you of those past experiences, your brain retrieves them automatically. This can happen through sights, sounds, smells, or even phrases you haven't heard in years. For example, walking past a bakery might bring back memories of helping someone bake cookies during childhood. The present moment and the memory overlap briefly, creating a mix of emotion and reflection. This isn't just remembering. Nostalgia also carries a personal feeling. It's the emotional layer that separates it from simply recalling a fact. Nostalgia can be sparked in social settings too. Sharing stories with friends about how things used to be or flipping through old photos can activate the same response. It's not limited to happy memories. Sometimes even bittersweet or mildly sad moments can trigger it, especially if they represent a time when things felt more meaningful or secure. Interestingly, nostalgia isn't just a passive experience. It can influence mood, motivation, and even decision-making. Feeling nostalgic can make people more reflective, more social, or more open to revisiting old hobbies or places. In short, nostalgia is a normal and meaningful part of how the brain connects your past to your present, helping you process your identity and sense of continuity over time. OCD. You've probably had moments when you double-checked if you locked the door or turned off the stove. That's normal. But for someone with OCD or obsessive-compulsive disorder, these thoughts and behaviors happen far more often and interfere with daily life. OCD is a mental health condition where a person experiences frequent, unwanted thoughts, known as obsessions, and feels the urge to perform certain actions repeatedly, called compulsions. These are not just habits or preferences. They're patterns that can feel impossible to ignore or stop, even when someone knows they don't make logical sense. For example, a person might have an ongoing fear of germs. The obsession is the fear of contamination. The compulsion might be washing hands dozens of times a day, not because they're dirty, but because it temporarily reduces anxiety. Another person might feel the need to check if the door is locked over and over, even when they just locked it. OCD looks different for everyone. Some people deal with compulsions that involve arranging objects in a specific order. Others might have obsessive thoughts about harm coming to loved ones and engage in rituals to prevent it, like repeating certain words or actions. It's important to understand that OCD isn't about being neat or perfectionistic. It's about anxiety and the brain's way of trying to reduce that anxiety through repetitive behavior. The relief from doing the compulsion is often short-lived, and the cycle repeats itself. While OCD can be distressing and time-consuming, it is treatable. Therapies like CBT, especially exposure and response prevention, are commonly used. In some cases, medication is also part of the treatment. Understanding OCD helps reduce the stigma and makes it easier for people to seek support and care when they need it. Pareidolia. You've probably looked at a cloud and seen the shape of an animal or a face in the front of a car. That everyday experience is a result of something called pareidolia. Pareidolia is a natural tendency of the human brain to see patterns, especially faces, where none actually exist. It's not a sign of imagination running wild. It's a built-in function of how our brains process visual information. Human brains are highly tuned to recognize familiar shapes, and faces are one of the most important things we learn to identify early in life. This makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Spotting a face quickly could help us recognize a friend, a threat, or a caregiver. Over time, that sensitivity became so strong that we sometimes see faces even when they're not really there. A classic example is seeing a man in the moon. Another is noticing a face in the pattern of a power outlet or the arrangement of car headlights and grille. Pareidolia doesn't just apply to faces. It can happen with animals, objects, or even words, like when people see shapes in burnt toast or hear hidden messages in reversed music. The brain is constantly trying to find order in chaos, so it tends to connect the dots, even when the pattern is random. This process is automatic. You don't have to try to see the face in the cloud. It just appears. That's what makes pareidolia such a common and often funny part of everyday life. While pareidolia is harmless, it's a good example of how the brain often prioritizes pattern recognition over accuracy, even in the absence of real meaning. Complex phenomena explained. Reflection. You see your face in the bathroom mirror each morning. That's reflection in action. Reflection happens when light hits a surface and bounces back. This is how mirrors, windows, and still water can show an image of whatever's in front of them. The surface needs to be smooth so the light bounces off evenly and returns a clear picture to your eyes. In a mirror, the light rays come straight from you, hit the glass, and bounce directly back. That's why your reflection matches your movements in real time. But if the surface is rough, like a wall or pavement, the light scatters in all directions, and you don't see a reflection at all. Reflection isn't just limited to mirrors. You also see it when headlights shine off a wet road, or when sunglasses reflect sunlight. Even a smartphone screen can show a faint reflection when it's turned off. This same principle applies to sound too. When you shout into a canyon and hear your voice echo back, that's sound reflecting off distant rock walls. It works like light, but with sound waves bouncing instead. Some materials are better at reflecting than others. Polished metal, calm water, and glass with a shiny backing are all highly reflective. On the other hand, surfaces like carpet or cloth absorb light instead of reflecting it, which is why you don't see reflections on them. We use reflection in all kinds of technology: periscopes, telescopes, even automatic car sensors. It's a simple but powerful part of how we observe and interact with the world. Reflection, at its core, is just the return of energy, light or sound, after it meets a surface. Friction. When you rub your hands together to warm them up, you're feeling friction at work. Friction is the resistance that happens when two surfaces move against each other. It's a force that slows things down or stops them entirely. You experience it every time you walk, write with a pencil, or press the brakes on a bicycle. Without friction, your feet would slide out from under you and nothing would stay in place. At the microscopic level, even smooth surfaces are full of tiny bumps and grooves. When two surfaces touch, those irregularities catch on each other, creating resistance. That resistance is what we call friction. The rougher the surface, the more friction it produces. That's why sandpaper feels gritty and slows your hand down, while ice allows you to glide easily. Friction is useful in everyday life. It's what lets car tires grip the road and keeps screws from loosening. It also creates heat. When you strike a match, you're using friction to ignite it. But friction can also be a problem. In machines, it causes parts to wear down or overheat, which is why oil or grease is used to reduce it. Different types of friction exist depending on the situation. Static friction prevents things from moving in the first place, like a book sitting still on a desk. Sliding friction takes over once the object is in motion. There's also rolling friction, like what happens between a ball and the floor, which is usually much lower. Friction may seem like a simple idea, but it plays a role in almost every physical task, from the smallest actions to complex mechanical systems. Sound. You hear a phone ring, someone speaking, or a door closing. That's sound. A part of daily life you experience almost constantly. Sound is a type of vibration that travels through a medium, usually air. When something makes a noise, like clapping hands or a speaker playing music, it creates small, fast movements in the air around it. These movements push the air molecules next to them, creating waves that spread outward in all directions. When these sound waves reach your ears, your brain turns them into something recognizable, like speech, music, or background noise. The speed and strength of these vibrations affect how the sound feels. Faster vibrations make higher-pitched sounds, like a whistle. Slower vibrations make lower-pitched sounds, like a drum. Volume depends on how strong those vibrations are. A loud bang has stronger waves, while a whisper has weaker ones. Your ears are built to pick up these waves. The outer ear catches the vibrations and sends them down to your eardrum, which vibrates in response. Tiny bones in your middle ear then amplify those vibrations, passing them to the inner ear, where they're converted into signals your brain can understand. Sound doesn't just help you hear, it helps you navigate the world. You can tell where something is based on which ear hears it first. You can tell how close something is by how loud it sounds. Even silence can communicate something important. Everyday experiences, like talking with someone, hearing footsteps, or listening to music, all rely on the same basic idea: vibrations moving through the air and reaching your ears. In simple terms, sound is just movement turned into meaning, and your brain is constantly interpreting it. Echo. If you've ever shouted into a canyon and heard your own voice bounce back, you've experienced an echo. An echo happens when a sound wave travels through the air, hits a surface, and reflects back toward the source. The delay you hear between making the sound and hearing it return depends on the distance the wave has to travel. The farther away the surface, the longer it takes for the echo to reach you. Sound travels in waves, similar to ripples in water. When you speak or clap your hands, those waves move outward in all directions. If they hit a hard surface, like a wall, mountain, or tunnel, some of the energy bounces back. If the reflected sound reaches your ears after a slight delay, you hear it as an echo. Echoes are easier to notice in large open spaces where sound can travel long distances without interference. That's why you hear them clearly in empty halls, caves, or across wide valleys. In smaller enclosed rooms, echoes are often absorbed or jumbled by multiple surfaces, creating a more muffled or blended sound known as reverberation. The effect of an echo can vary based on the material of the surface. Hard, flat surfaces like concrete or rock reflect sound well, while soft materials like curtains, carpets, or foam tend to absorb it. This principle is used in designing concert halls, classrooms, and recording studios, where managing sound reflection is important. Echoes aren't just a curiosity, they're useful in real-world applications. Devices like sonar and ultrasound rely on echo detection to measure distances or map objects, including everything from submarines to unborn babies. So even though it might seem like a simple acoustic trick, an echo is a basic demonstration of how sound moves, interacts, and returns. Fire. You've seen fire in action when lighting a candle, cooking on a gas stove, or sitting near a campfire. Fire is the visible result of a chemical reaction called combustion. It happens when a material like wood or gas combines with oxygen in the air and releases energy in the form of heat and light. This reaction needs three things: fuel, oxygen, and heat. Remove any one of them, and the fire goes out. The flame you see is actually a region of gas that's been heated to the point it glows. At the bottom of the flame, combustion is just beginning, so it's often blue due to higher energy and temperature. As gases rise, they cool slightly and produce the familiar yellow or orange color. That color comes from tiny glowing particles of carbon. Not all materials catch fire the same way. Paper and dry wood ignite easily, while metal or wet materials usually don't. That's because fire needs a minimum temperature, called the ignition point, to start the combustion reaction. In homes, fire is used in controlled ways, like heating water or powering stoves. But when it spreads uncontrollably, it becomes dangerous. Fire alarms and extinguishers are designed to detect and stop fires before they cause damage. Fire also needs airflow. That's why blowing gently on a small flame can make it grow, while cutting off air can smother it. This principle is used in fire safety, such as closing doors to slow the spread of a fire. From lighting a match to starting a grill, fire is a controlled chemical reaction that produces heat and light when fuel, oxygen, and heat combine in the right way. Rainbows. You might notice a rainbow appear after a rainstorm, especially when the sun is low in the sky and shining from behind you. A rainbow forms when sunlight enters a raindrop and bends or refracts, because light changes speed as it moves from air into water. Once inside the drop, the light reflects off the back of the droplet and bends again as it exits. This process separates the light into its component colors, because each color bends at a slightly different angle. Red bends the least, violet the most. The result is a spread of colors arranged in the same order every time. Red on the outside, followed by orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. What you see depends on the angle between the sunlight, the raindrops, and your eyes. That's why two people standing a few feet apart won't see the rainbow in exactly the same spot. It's not a fixed object in the sky. It's an optical effect based on your viewpoint. Rainbows usually form when the sky in front of you is still cloudy or wet, but the sun has broken through behind you. They often appear in the morning or late afternoon, when sunlight hits the falling rain at just the right angle, typically about 42 degrees from the direction opposite the sun. In rare cases, you might also see a second fainter rainbow above the first. That happens when the light reflects twice inside the raindrop before leaving. The colors in the secondary rainbow appear in reverse order. Rainbows are a result of sunlight bending and bouncing inside raindrops, separating into a full spectrum of visible colors before reaching your eyes at a very specific angle. Snowflakes. Snowflakes are the tiny ice crystals that fall from the sky during cold weather and gather into what we call snow. They start high up in the atmosphere when water vapor freezes around a tiny dust particle. As the crystal grows, it takes on a six-sided structure because of the way water molecules arrange themselves when they freeze. This six-sided shape is consistent across all snowflakes, but the exact pattern each one forms is influenced by the conditions it passes through, like temperature and humidity. As the snowflake falls through the air, it moves through changing layers of temperature and moisture. These shifts affect how quickly different parts of the crystal grow, leading to a wide range of shapes and patterns. That's why no two snowflakes look exactly the same. Although they all follow the same basic hexagonal structure, snowflakes can be simple, like flat plates or slender columns, or complex, with intricate branches and patterns. When many snowflakes stick together on the ground, they form the snow we see in piles and drifts. The fluffy texture of fresh snow comes from all the air trapped between the flakes. In order for snowflakes to form and survive all the way to the ground, the air needs to be below freezing, not just at high altitudes, but also near the surface. If it warms up too much on the way down, the snowflake may melt into a raindrop before it reaches the ground. What we recognize as a snowflake is really the result of water vapor freezing, growing, and changing shape as it moves through the sky. It's a small, detailed process that adds up to the snowy scenes we experience in winter. Phases of the moon. The moon doesn't always look the same when you glance up at the night sky. Some nights it's a thin sliver, other times it's a full, bright circle. These changes are called the phases of the moon. The moon doesn't produce its own light. What we see from Earth is sunlight reflecting off its surface. As the moon moves in its orbit around Earth, the angle between the sun, the moon, and Earth shifts. This changes how much of the moon's lit-up side is visible to us. The cycle starts with the new moon. This is when the moon is between Earth and the sun, so the side facing us is dark. A few days later, a small curve of light appears. That's the waxing crescent. Waxing means growing. The moon continues to appear larger until it reaches the first quarter, when half the moon's surface is visible. As it keeps orbiting, more light becomes visible, leading to the waxing gibbous phase. Then comes the full moon. Now the entire sunlit half of the moon is facing Earth. After that, the process reverses. The moon begins to shrink or wane. First comes the waning gibbous, then the last quarter, where again only half the moon is visible. This time the opposite half. The final stage is the waning crescent, and then the cycle restarts with the new moon. The full cycle takes about 29.5 days, which is why we often see one full moon each month. These phases are easy to track with the naked eye, and many calendars include moon phases as part of their design. Even though the moon itself doesn't change shape, the way sunlight hits it gives us the familiar pattern we've come to recognize. Radio waves. You use radio waves every day, even if you never touch a radio. They're what make your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and phone calls work behind the scenes. Radio waves are a type of electromagnetic wave, like light, but with much longer wavelengths. Unlike visible light, which your eyes can detect, radio waves are invisible, but they can travel long distances through the air and carry information with them. That makes them perfect for communication. Here's how they work in practice. A device like a radio tower, cell tower, or Wi-Fi router takes audio, video, or data and turns it into an electrical signal. That signal is used to generate radio waves, which travel outward through space. Another device, like your phone, car stereo, or TV, has an antenna that picks up those waves and converts them back into usable information. Different kinds of devices use different ranges of frequencies. FM radio, for example, uses frequencies between 88 and 108 MHz. Wi-Fi routers usually operate at 2.4 or 5 GHz. These frequencies don't overlap, so devices don't interfere with each other. Radio waves don't just carry entertainment and internet. They're also used for GPS, emergency services, baby monitors, garage door openers, and remote car keys. Some waves can travel long distances, even beyond the horizon, while others are short range and work best in open spaces. Walls and buildings can sometimes block or weaken radio signals. That's why Wi-Fi might work well in one room, but drop off in another. Thicker materials or too many devices using the same frequency can make the problem worse. From listening to music in the car to getting directions on your phone, radio waves quietly power many everyday experiences without needing any wires at all. Induction. When you place a pan on an induction stove and it starts heating instantly, you're seeing electromagnetic induction at work. Induction is a process where electricity is used to create a magnetic field, and that magnetic field is used to move electric currents through another object, usually without any direct contact. It's a way to transfer energy using magnetism instead of wires or flames. In an induction cooktop, there's a coil of wire beneath the surface. When electric current flows through this coil, it creates a magnetic field. If you place a pan made of a magnetic metal on top, the field generates electric currents inside the metal itself. These tiny currents create heat directly in the pan, cooking your food without heating the stove surface. Induction isn't just for cooking, it's also how wireless charging works. When you set your phone down on a charging pad, the pad generates a magnetic field. The phone has a coil inside that picks up the field and converts it back into electricity to charge the battery. Another example is electric toothbrushes. Many charge by sitting in a cradle without any visible wires. That's induction again, transferring energy from the charger to the brush through a magnetic field. Induction can also work in reverse. Move a magnet through a coil of wire and you can create electricity. That's how generators work in wind turbines and hydroelectric dams. The key idea is that changing magnetic fields and electric currents can create each other. And with the right setup, you can transfer energy efficiently, even without physical connections. From stoves and chargers to large-scale power plants, induction is one of the most useful ways we've found to turn electricity into action, and sometimes action back into electricity. Osmosis. If you've ever soaked raisins in water and watched them swell up, you've already seen osmosis in action. Osmosis is the movement of water through a thin barrier, like a cell membrane. It happens when two liquids with different concentrations of dissolved substances, such as salt or sugar, are separated by that barrier. Water naturally flows from the side with less concentration to the side with more. It keeps moving until the concentration on both sides becomes more balanced. In living organisms, osmosis is a key process that helps cells stay hydrated and maintain their structure. For example, plant roots absorb water from the soil through osmosis. The water moves into the plant's root cells, which often contain a higher concentration of minerals. This process is essential for keeping the plant upright and healthy. In your own body, osmosis helps regulate water in and out of your cells. If you drink too much water too quickly, the balance of salts inside your cells can be thrown off. Water rushes into the cells through osmosis, and they can temporarily swell. That's why proper fluid balance is important. You can even see osmosis when making pickles. Cucumbers placed in salty brine lose water as it moves out through their skin. At the same time, some of the salty solution moves in. The result is a firm, flavorful pickle. Osmosis also plays a role in medical treatments. Dialysis, for example, uses osmosis to help filter waste and excess fluid from the blood when the kidneys aren't working properly. So, while it might seem like a subtle process, osmosis is behind many everyday changes in nature, food, and even your own body, quietly shifting water to where it's needed most. Cooking. Cooking is the process of using heat to prepare food, and it's something almost everyone encounters every day. Whether it's boiling water for instant noodles or roasting vegetables in the oven, cooking changes raw ingredients into something edible, flavorful, and safe to eat. At its core, cooking is about transforming the structure of food. When you fry an egg, the clear part turns white and solid. That's heat changing the proteins. When you bake bread, the dough rises and turns golden because the heat activates the yeast and browns the sugars on the surface. These changes not only affect texture and flavor, but also make food easier to digest and often kill harmful bacteria. Different methods apply heat in different ways. Boiling uses hot water, frying uses oil, and baking uses dry heat inside an oven. Each method brings out different tastes and textures. For example, boiling a potato makes it soft, while frying it makes it crispy on the outside. The choice depends on what you're trying to achieve. Cooking also helps combine ingredients in useful ways. In a simple soup, vegetables, water, salt, and spices are heated together. As they cook, flavors blend and intensify. This blending is why many dishes taste better after simmering or resting. Cooking isn't always about starting from scratch. Heating up leftovers, toasting bread, or even microwaving frozen meals all count. What matters is the use of heat to alter food's form and flavor. Most cultures have their own cooking styles and traditions, but the basic idea is always the same. Take raw ingredients, apply heat, and make them ready to eat. Whether it's over a stove, in a microwave, or on a grill, cooking is one of the most common ways we interact with the science of food. Heat. Heat is something you feel every day when you touch a warm mug, stand in the sun, or cook food on a stove. Heat is a form of energy. It moves from something hotter to something cooler. When you place a cold spoon into hot soup, the heat from the soup transfers into the spoon, warming it up. This basic process of heat transfer happens constantly around us. There are three main ways heat moves: conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction happens when two objects touch, like when a metal pan heats up on a burner. Convection occurs through liquids or gases. For example, warm air rising in a room or boiling water circulating in a pot. Radiation doesn't need direct contact or air. It's how the sun warms your skin, even from millions of kilometers away. When something gains heat, its particles start moving faster. In solids, they vibrate more. In liquids and gases, the particles move around more quickly. That's why heating food can change its texture. It speeds up the movement of molecules, breaking down structures or helping ingredients combine. Heat can also cause changes we can see or feel. Metal expands when heated. Ice melts. Water boils. These physical changes are easy to observe and help explain what heat does at a deeper level. We control heat in many areas of daily life, from adjusting a thermostat to using a microwave. Even our bodies produce heat and regulate it to stay at a safe internal temperature. In simple terms, heat is energy on the move, and we interact with it constantly, whether we're trying to stay warm, cool down, or cook a meal. Understanding how it works helps explain a lot of everyday experiences. Electricity. You use electricity every time you turn on a light, charge your phone, or open the fridge. Electricity is a form of energy that comes from the movement of tiny particles called electrons. These particles are part of atoms, the basic building blocks of everything. In some materials, like copper, electrons can move easily. When they move in a steady flow, that's what we call an electric current. This current travels through wires in your home and powers all kinds of devices, The moment you flip a switch, you're allowing that current to move through a circuit, a path designed to carry electricity from a power source to a device and back again. Most of the electricity we use starts at power plants. These facilities use various energy sources, like coal, natural gas, wind, or solar, to generate movement, usually by turning turbines. That mechanical energy is converted into electrical energy using a machine called a generator. From there, the electricity travels through a network of high-voltage power lines, transformers, and smaller wires until it reaches homes and buildings. Inside your home, electricity is divided into smaller currents and directed to wall outlets, lights, and appliances. Each device is built to handle a specific amount of electrical power. If too much flows through at once, it can cause overheating or short circuits, which is why safety features like fuses and breakers exist. Electricity is also stored in batteries. Instead of coming from a wall socket, a battery holds a chemical reaction that slowly releases electrons, providing power to portable items like remotes, flashlights, or phones. From powering major cities to charging a toothbrush, electricity is a key part of modern life, made possible by the controlled movement of electrons through materials. Black holes. You won't run into a black hole during your daily routine, but the concept is easier to understand than it sounds. A black hole is an object in space where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape from it. They usually form when a massive star runs out of fuel. Without energy to push outward, the star collapses in on itself. If the collapse is intense enough, it creates a black hole. Despite the name, black holes aren't empty. They're packed with a huge amount of matter in an incredibly small space. Imagine stuffing something as massive as several suns into a sphere only a few kilometers wide. That extreme density creates powerful gravity. The boundary around a black hole is called the event horizon. It marks the point of no return. Once something crosses it, it's pulled in and can't escape, not even light. That's why black holes appear black. We can't see black holes directly, but we know they're there by watching how nearby stars or gas behave. If a star is orbiting something invisible, or gas is spiraling inward and heating up, it suggests a black hole is nearby. We also detect black holes through gravitational waves, ripples in space caused when black holes merge. Black holes vary in size. Some are just a few times the mass of our sun. Others, called supermassive black holes, are millions or even billions of times more massive and sit at the centers of galaxies, including our own. Although black holes are far away and don't affect everyday life, they play a key role in shaping galaxies and helping scientists understand how gravity and space behave under extreme conditions. Weather. You check the weather before deciding what to wear, whether to carry an umbrella, or if it's a good day for a walk. Weather is the day-to-day condition of the atmosphere in a specific place. It includes things like temperature, humidity, rainfall, wind, and cloud cover. These conditions can change quickly, even hour by hour, depending on where you are and the season. For example, a hot sunny morning might turn into a stormy afternoon. That's weather in motion. At the center of all weather activity is the sun. As it heats different parts of the earth unevenly, it causes air and moisture to move. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and that movement creates wind. Meanwhile, water from oceans, lakes, and soil evaporates into the air. When it cools, it condenses into clouds, and eventually, that moisture can fall as rain or snow. Weather patterns are also influenced by geography. Mountains, oceans, forests, and cities all shape how weather behaves. A coastal city may get more rain, while a desert region stays dry most of the year. Even in the same country, the weather can feel completely different from one region to another. Weather is tracked using satellites, weather balloons, and ground stations. Meteorologists collect this data to make short-term forecasts. These predictions are never perfect, but they're usually accurate enough to help people plan daily life. Understanding weather helps people stay safe, protect crops, and manage energy use. Sudden changes, like storms or heat waves, can have real effects, which is why forecasts are part of most people's routines. In simple terms, weather is the constantly changing result of how the air, sun, and water interact above us, and it directly affects how we live each day. Water. You drink it, bathe in it, and cook with it. Water is part of almost everything you do in a day. It's a clear, tasteless liquid made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Water is essential for life. Every cell in your body relies on it to function. It helps transport nutrients, regulate temperature, and remove waste. That's why staying hydrated is a basic part of staying healthy. In your home, water arrives through pipes from local sources like rivers, lakes, or underground wells. It's treated and filtered, so it's safe to use. When you wash dishes or take a shower, that used water flows out through drainage systems and gets cleaned again before returning to the environment. Water also changes form. When it gets cold enough, it becomes ice. When it's heated, it turns into steam. These changes happen all around you. When ice melts in a glass, when you see fog on a mirror, or when clouds form in the sky. That's water moving between its solid, liquid, and gas states. On a larger scale, water drives Earth's systems. It shapes weather patterns, fills oceans and rivers, and supports ecosystems. Plants pull water from the ground to grow. Animals drink it to survive. Even in cities, water is used in cooling systems, cleaning, and industry. Because water is so common, it's easy to overlook how important it is. But nearly everything you eat, use, or touch required water at some point. Whether to grow food, produce materials, or keep machines running, water isn't just something you pour into a glass. It's a basic ingredient in how life works, and it plays a constant role in the systems that keep our daily world moving. Mushroom. You've probably seen mushrooms sliced on a pizza, stirred into soup, or growing in the grass after a rainy day. A mushroom is the fruiting body of a fungus, similar to how an apple is the fruit of a tree. But instead of growing from seeds in soil, mushrooms grow from tiny spores, often in damp, shaded environments. What you see above ground, a stem and cap, is only a small part of the organism. The majority of it lives underground in a network of thread-like structures called mycelium. Mushrooms come in many shapes and sizes. Some, like the common white button mushroom, are cultivated and sold in grocery stores. Others, like shiitake or portobello, are valued for their richer flavor. In the wild, there are thousands of mushroom species, though not all are safe to eat. Some are poisonous and look similar to edible varieties, which is why foraging without expert knowledge can be risky. Beyond food, mushrooms have practical uses. Certain species are used in medicine. For example, penicillin, the world's first widely used antibiotic, was derived from a fungus. Some mushrooms are also being researched for their potential to break down waste or support mental health treatments. Mushrooms grow quickly, sometimes appearing overnight. They thrive in decomposing plant matter, helping recycle nutrients back into the ecosystem. In that way, they play a key role in natural processes that support plant life and soil health. So whether you're cooking with them or walking past them in a forest, Mushrooms are more than just odd-looking plants. They're part of a larger, invisible system of fungi that's constantly at work behind the scenes of everyday life. Nutrients. Every time you eat a meal, you're giving your body something it needs to keep running. Nutrients. Nutrients are substances in food that your body uses to grow, repair itself, and stay healthy. There are 6 main types: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. Each one plays a specific role in how your body works, and you need a balance of all of them to function properly. Carbohydrates are your body's main energy source. You find them in foods like bread, rice, pasta, and fruits. They're broken down into glucose, which your cells use for fuel. Proteins help build and repair tissues. They come from foods like meat, eggs, dairy, beans, and nuts. Fats, often misunderstood, are also important. They support brain function, store energy, and help absorb certain vitamins. Healthy fats are found in foods like olive oil, avocados, and fish. Vitamins and minerals help your body carry out a wide range of tasks. Vitamin C, for example, helps your immune system. Calcium strengthens your bones. Iron helps carry oxygen in your blood. These nutrients are usually found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and meats. Even though you only need small amounts of them, they're essential. And then there's water. It's often overlooked, but it's vital. Water helps regulate your temperature, transport nutrients, and keep your organs working. Your body can't produce most nutrients on its own, which is why they have to come from your diet. If you don't get enough of them, you might feel tired, get sick more easily, or face longer-term health problems. Eating a variety of foods is the most effective way to make sure your body gets the full range of nutrients it needs to stay active, alert, and strong. Complex technologies explained. Bluetooth. You tap play on your phone, and music starts playing through your wireless earbuds. That's Bluetooth. Quietly connecting devices without a single wire. Bluetooth is a short-range wireless technology that allows 2 devices to talk to each other. It's commonly used for sending small amounts of data between things like phones, headphones, speakers, smartwatches, keyboards, and even car systems. Unlike Wi-Fi, which connects to the internet, Bluetooth is mainly used to link devices directly to each other. Here's how it works. When you pair a Bluetooth speaker with your phone, the 2 devices exchange a digital handshake. After this pairing, they remember each other. When they're within about 30 feet, they can connect automatically. Bluetooth uses low-power radio waves to send information back and forth, like music, messages, or commands. This connection isn't fast enough for large file transfers, but it's perfect for tasks like streaming audio or tracking your fitness steps. And it uses very little power, so it's ideal for portable devices that run on small batteries. Newer versions of Bluetooth are more energy efficient and offer stronger, more stable connections. For example, Bluetooth Low Energy, often used in smartwatches or trackers, can run for days or weeks without needing a charge. Most people use Bluetooth daily without thinking about it. It powers wireless accessories, makes hands-free calling possible, and lets smart devices sync quietly in the background. The technology has been built into nearly every modern device, making it a quiet but essential part of how we live and work with electronics. Whether you're listening to music, sending a photo to a nearby device, or unlocking your car with your phone, Bluetooth is the invisible link handling it all behind the scenes. Camera. You press a button on your phone, and in an instant, it captures a moment you can look at forever. That's the camera, turning real life into images. A camera is a device that records light. At its simplest, It works by letting light pass through a small opening, usually a lens, and onto a surface that reacts to it. In older cameras, that surface was film. In modern cameras, it's a digital sensor. When you take a picture, the lens focuses the incoming light so the image isn't blurry. The camera's shutter opens briefly, allowing the light to hit the sensor. That sensor is covered in millions of tiny pixels, each one capturing how bright and what color the light is. Together, they create a full image. The camera then turns this pattern of light into a digital file you can save, edit, or share instantly. That's why even phone cameras, which are tiny, can take such detailed pictures. They use advanced software to improve sharpness, brightness, and even faces. Zoom works by adjusting the lens to make faraway things appear closer. Autofocus makes sure the subject is sharp. Features like night mode or portrait mode are just different ways the camera adjusts how it processes light and depth. Cameras are built into phones, laptops, doorbells, and even traffic lights. They're used for everything from taking selfies to scientific research. And they don't just take still pictures. They can record video by capturing many images in rapid sequence, usually 30 or 60 times per second. Whether you're photographing food, scanning documents, or making a video call, a camera is simply capturing light and converting it into something you can see, store, and use. Battery. You use a battery every time you turn on your phone, remote, or laptop. It's a small object with one job, storing and delivering energy when you need it. A battery is a container that holds chemical energy and turns it into electricity. Inside, there are typically two materials, called electrodes, and a liquid or gel between them called an electrolyte. One electrode wants to give up electrons, and the other wants to take them. When you connect the battery to a device, it creates a path for the electrons to move. That flow of electrons is what powers your device. In your phone, for example, a lithium-ion battery stores energy when charged and releases it slowly as you use apps or make calls. The same basic process happens in a car battery, a flashlight, or a wireless mouse. What changes is the size, shape, and chemistry, depending on how much power is needed and how long it has to last. Rechargeable batteries, like those in laptops or electric toothbrushes, are designed to reverse the chemical reaction when plugged in. That's what charging really is, restoring the balance so the battery can deliver energy again. Over time, batteries lose their ability to hold a charge. This is because the chemical reactions become less efficient with repeated use. That's why old phones may die faster, even when recently charged. Modern life runs on batteries. They're in hearing aids, drones, electric cars, and portable fans. Some are tiny enough to power a smartwatch. Others are large enough to back up entire homes during power outages. At its core, a battery is just a controlled way of letting electrons flow, so your technology can keep working when it's not plugged into the wall. Computer. You're probably watching this on a computer right now, whether it's a laptop, tablet, or phone. A computer is a machine that takes in information, processes it, and gives you a result. At its core, it follows a very simple cycle: input, process, output. You type on a keyboard or tap a screen. The computer processes your request using its hardware and software, and then it displays the result on your screen. Inside, the most important part is the processor, or CPU. It acts like the brain, carrying out instructions at high speed. There's also memory, which helps the computer temporarily hold information while working on it, and storage, where data like files, apps, and photos are kept long-term. What makes a computer so versatile is software. Apps and programs tell the hardware what to do. Whether you're editing a video, writing a message, or browsing the internet, it's software managing those tasks using the same underlying hardware. Everyday activities like checking your bank account, watching videos, or joining a video call rely on layers of systems working together. The computer translates code, just ones and zeros, into text, sound, images, and motion, all in real time. Modern computers are also connected through the internet, allowing them to send and receive information from other machines instantly. That's how streaming works, how websites load, and how online communication happens. Whether it's a desktop at work, a smartphone in your pocket, or a smart appliance in your kitchen, computers are now built into many parts of daily life. They've become more powerful, more portable, and more essential than ever. Speaker. You hear a notification, a song, or a voice message. Your speaker is doing its job. A speaker is a device that turns electrical signals into sound. Whether it's built into your phone, your car, or your TV, the function is the same. It takes an audio signal, basically a stream of electrical energy, and converts it into vibrations in the air that your ears recognize as sound. Inside a speaker, there's a part called a diaphragm. This is usually a cone-shaped surface that moves back and forth very quickly. It's connected to a coil of wire, which sits inside a magnetic field. When an electrical signal passes through the coil, it creates a magnetic force that moves the diaphragm. These tiny movements push and pull air, creating sound waves. The speed and strength of these movements determine what kind of sound you hear. Fast vibrations create high-pitched sounds like a whistle. Slower, deeper movements produce bass sounds like a drum beat. In everyday life, speakers come in all shapes and sizes. The tiny one in your smartphone lets you hear a call. A Bluetooth speaker lets you play music at a picnic. Car speakers create surround sound on your commute. High-end home systems split sound into separate speakers, one for low notes, one for mid-range, and another for treble, to make the sound clearer. Some speakers include built-in amplifiers, which boost the signal before turning it into sound. This helps make the audio louder without distorting it. Today's speakers are also often wireless, using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to connect to other devices. But even with all the added features, the basic principle stays the same: converting electrical signals into sound waves you can hear. GPS. You tap your phone for directions, and within seconds, it knows exactly where you are and how to get where you're going. That's GPS in action. GPS stands for Global Positioning System. It's a network of over 30 satellites orbiting Earth, sending constant signals down to the planet. Your phone, car, or smartwatch has a GPS receiver that listens to those signals. By measuring how long each signal takes to arrive, your device can figure out how far it is from each satellite. When it gets data from at least 4 satellites, it can calculate your exact position, down to a few meters. The process works using basic math and timing. Each satellite sends the time and its location. Your device compares those timestamps and triangulates your location in 3 dimensions: latitude, longitude, and altitude. This technology doesn't rely on internet or cellular data to work. Even in airplane mode, a GPS receiver can still read satellite signals. However, apps like maps and navigation tools do need data to download the roads and locations you see on screen. In daily life, GPS helps you navigate traffic, track workouts, and find your parked car. Rideshare services, delivery apps, and even emergency responders depend on GPS accuracy. Some farming equipment uses it to steer tractors. Planes and ships use it to stay on course. For added precision, GPS is often paired with other systems like Wi-Fi location or cell towers, especially in dense cities where tall buildings can block satellite signals. Even though the system involves space-based satellites and complex calculations, GPS feels effortless from a user's perspective. You open a map and your location appears. That's the result of global infrastructure working in the background to keep you oriented on the move. Autocorrect. You're typing a message on your phone, and before you can finish the word, it changes. Sometimes helpfully, sometimes not. That's autocorrect. Autocorrect is a feature built into your keyboard that automatically detects and corrects spelling mistakes as you type. At a basic level, it compares what you're writing against a dictionary stored in the device. If a word doesn't match anything in that list, it tries to guess what you meant based on the closest available word. This can fix common errors like teh turning into the or receive, becoming receive. But modern autocorrect systems go further. They learn from how you type. If you often write, "Let's meet soon," your phone starts expecting that phrase. If you use slang, names, or multilingual terms, it can add those to your personal dictionary. Some systems also use predictive text, looking at the previous word to guess what you're about to type next. This helps when typing longer phrases or full sentences. To make this work, autocorrect relies on a combination of language models and algorithms. It looks at probabilities, how likely certain words are to follow others, and at how close a mistyped word is to a real one in terms of letters or layout on the keyboard. For example, if you type GPPD, it assumes you meant good, since P and O are right next to each other. Autocorrect can save time and reduce typos, but it's not perfect. It sometimes changes the meaning of a message or replaces a correct word with the wrong one. That's why most phones let you undo or customize suggestions. In the background, autocorrect is constantly scanning, matching, and learning, all while you just keep typing. AI. You've probably already used AI today without even noticing. Whether it was your phone predicting the next word you were about to type, a voice assistant answering a question, or a streaming app suggesting what to watch next, all of that involves artificial intelligence. AI, or artificial intelligence, refers to computer systems designed to perform tasks that normally require human thinking. That includes recognizing patterns, understanding language, making decisions, and even learning from experience. At its core, AI is about training machines to process information, make predictions, and improve performance over time. Most everyday AI works by analyzing large amounts of data. For example, when you use a navigation app, it doesn't just show a map. It collects real-time traffic data from thousands of other users and uses AI to suggest the fastest route. When you scroll through social media, AI decides which posts you're most likely to engage with based on your past behavior. There are different types of AI. Some are rule-based, following a fixed set of instructions. Others, like machine learning systems, improve as they process more data. A more advanced form, called generative AI, can create new content like images, music, or text by spotting patterns in the material it was trained on. You'll also see AI in customer service chatbots, fraud detection tools, grammar checkers, online shopping recommendations, and even facial recognition in security systems. It doesn't think like a human, but it can solve specific problems very efficiently. Although it sounds complex, AI is really just software that helps machines do useful things with information. It's become a behind-the-scenes part of daily life, quietly helping systems run faster, smoother, and smarter. NFC. When you tap your phone to pay at a store or scan a pass at the metro gate, you're using NFC. NFC stands for Near Field Communication. It's a short-range wireless technology that allows two devices to exchange information when they're very close, usually just a few centimeters apart. Unlike Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, NFC doesn't need manual pairing or a network connection. You just bring two devices close together and the communication happens instantly. In everyday life, the most common use of NFC is contactless payments. When you use your phone or a credit card to tap and pay, the NFC chip in your device sends encrypted payment information to the terminal. It's quick, secure, and eliminates the need to swipe a card or enter a PIN in most cases. But NFC goes beyond just payments. It's used in access cards to enter buildings, in public transport cards, and in digital key systems for some hotel rooms or cars. Some phones also allow file sharing through NFC by simply touching two devices together. Even some smart posters or signs use NFC. Tapping your phone on them might pull up a website or launch an app. Technically, NFC is based on a subset of RFID, radio frequency identification technology, but it's designed for closer range and more interactive use. It can operate in three modes: reading information from another object, writing data to something like a tag, or peer-to-peer communication between two devices. All of this works because NFC chips are embedded in many of the objects we carry every day: phones, cards, watches, without us ever having to think about it. NFC makes secure, short-range digital communication fast and effortless in places like checkout lines, transit systems, and access points. QR code. You've probably scanned a QR code to check a restaurant menu, make a payment, or download an app. A QR code, short for Quick Response Code, is a type of two-dimensional barcode that stores information in a pattern of black squares on a white background. Unlike traditional barcodes that can only hold a small amount of data in a straight line, QR codes store information both horizontally and vertically, which means they can hold more data and still be scanned quickly. The way it works is simple. A QR code contains digital information, like a website URL, a payment link, or even a Wi-Fi password. When you scan it with your phone's camera, the software reads the pattern and translates it into usable information. The process is instant and doesn't require you to type anything manually. QR codes are used in many everyday situations. At the grocery store, you might scan one on a product to learn more about it. At events, QR codes can be used for digital tickets. In restaurants, they often replace physical menus. They're also used in mobile payments, where scanning a code connects the payer and the recipient instantly without swiping a card or entering a number. One reason QR codes became more popular in recent years is that modern smartphone cameras now come with built-in QR code scanners. You just point your camera at the code and a link appears. No extra app needed. Each QR code has alignment markers, those small boxes in the corners, which help the scanner detect the code's orientation. This makes them easy to read, even if the image is slightly damaged or tilted. QR codes offer a fast, convenient way to bridge the physical world and the digital one using just a camera. Cloud computing. When you upload a photo to Google Drive or stream a movie on Netflix, you're using cloud computing. Cloud computing simply means storing and accessing data or programs over the internet instead of on your personal device. In the past, everything had to be saved directly onto your computer's hard drive. Now, much of what you do, whether it's writing documents, playing games, or watching videos, happens on servers located elsewhere, and your device just connects to them. These servers are part of massive data centers maintained by companies like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. They're equipped with powerful computers that can handle storage, processing, and delivery of information. When you use a cloud-based service, your device sends a request to one of these servers, which then sends the data back almost instantly. That's why you can access the same files from your phone, laptop, or tablet, even if you switch devices. Cloud computing makes it easier to share and collaborate in real time. For example, multiple people can edit a Google Doc at once without emailing versions back and forth. It also means less need for powerful personal devices. Your phone or computer can be relatively lightweight because the heavy lifting is happening elsewhere. On the business side, companies use cloud computing to run websites, store customer information, and manage databases. It's cost-effective because they don't have to buy and maintain their own servers. They just pay for the cloud services they use, like a utility. Most people use cloud computing every day without thinking about it, whether it's checking email, backing up photos, or streaming music. It's a behind-the-scenes system that helps make modern digital life fast, flexible, and connected. Virtual reality. When you put on a VR headset and suddenly find yourself inside a game or simulation, you're experiencing virtual reality. Virtual reality, or VR, is a technology that creates a simulated environment you can interact with in a lifelike way. Instead of viewing a screen in front of you, VR places you inside the experience. You move your head, and the view changes as if you're actually there. This is made possible using a headset that tracks your movement and adjusts the images in real time. The core idea is immersion. When you're in VR, your surroundings are replaced with computer-generated visuals. You might be standing on a mountain, floating in space, or walking through a museum, all while physically standing in your living room. Many VR systems also include handheld controllers, so you can use your hands to pick things up, push buttons, or interact with objects in the virtual space. VR is commonly used in gaming, where it lets players become part of the game world. But it's also used in training simulations for pilots, doctors, and engineers. Instead of learning by watching or reading, they can practice in a safe, controlled environment that still feels realistic. Some educational programs use VR to take students on virtual field trips to historical sites or explore complex topics like anatomy or chemistry in 3D. Architects use VR to walk through buildings before they're built. Therapists even use it to help patients with phobias or anxiety by gradually exposing them to controlled virtual scenarios. While VR headsets are still developing in comfort, resolution, and affordability, the core experience remains the same, replacing your real-world view with a digital one that reacts to how you move and look around. 3D glasses. When you watch a 3D movie at the theatre and put on a pair of special glasses, you're using a simple tool that helps your eyes see depth on a flat screen. 3D glasses work by showing a slightly different image to each eye. This mimics how human vision works in real life. Your eyes are a few centimeters apart, so each one sees the world from a slightly different angle. Your brain processes the differences between the two views to create a sense of depth. This process is called stereoscopic vision. In a 3D movie, two versions of each scene are shown at the same time, one for the left eye and one for the right. Without 3D glasses, the images appear blurry or doubled. But when you wear the glasses, each lens filters out one of the two images, making sure each eye only sees what it's supposed to. Your brain then combines those two images into one, giving the illusion of depth. There are different types of 3D glasses. Some use color filters, like the classic red and blue lenses, though these are mostly outdated. Others use polarized lenses, which match the polarization of the images on the screen. More advanced glasses, like active shutter glasses, rapidly alternate between blocking the left and right eye in sync with the screen's refresh rate. This helps create a smoother and more accurate 3D experience. You'll usually find 3D glasses used in cinemas, some televisions, and theme park rides. They don't work on regular video content because the footage must be specifically designed for 3D viewing. When used properly, they trick your brain into seeing flat images as if they have real depth and distance. Internet. Every time you send a message, watch a video, or check the news on your phone, you're using the internet. The internet is a global network of computers that communicate with each other. It allows information to travel almost instantly across cities, countries, and even continents. At the most basic level, it works by breaking information into small packets. These packets are sent from your device through cables, routers, and servers, and eventually reassembled at their destination, whether that's another phone, a website, or a streaming service. Think of your home Wi-Fi as the starting point. It connects your device to a local router. That router is connected to your internet service provider, or ISP. From there, the data travels through fiber optic cables or cell towers, reaching data centers around the world. These data centers store and deliver the websites, videos, or apps you're trying to access. For example, when you click on a video, your device sends a request across the network. That request finds the correct server, often located far away, and the video file is sent back in small chunks. Your screen plays them in order, giving the appearance of a smooth stream. The internet also supports email, cloud storage, social media, and online shopping. Services like Google or WhatsApp are just applications built to run on top of this vast digital infrastructure. While much of it feels wireless, a large part of the internet relies on physical infrastructure, including underground cables and massive servers. In daily life, we rarely see the complexity behind the scenes. But every action online, from a simple search to a video call, is powered by this massive and coordinated network of machines working together across the world. Polyethylene. Every time you carry groceries in a plastic bag or open a bottle with a plastic cap, you're using polyethylene. Polyethylene is the most common plastic in the world. It's a type of polymer, which means it's made by linking together many smaller units called ethylene molecules. These units come from natural gas or petroleum, and when connected, they form long chains that give polyethylene its structure and strength. There are different types of polyethylene depending on how the chains are arranged. For example, low-density polyethylene, or LDPE, is flexible and lightweight. It's often used in plastic bags, cling wrap, and squeeze bottles. On the other hand, high-density polyethylene, or HDPE, has chains packed tightly together, making it stronger and more rigid. This kind is found in products like detergent bottles, cutting boards, and piping. One of the reasons polyethylene is so widely used is its versatility. It's resistant to moisture, doesn't break down easily, and can be molded into almost any shape. That makes it ideal for packaging, containers, toys, and many household items. However, polyethylene doesn't break down naturally in the environment, which contributes to long-term waste. Because of this, there's been a growing push toward recycling and finding biodegradable alternatives. While polyethylene can be recycled, not all types are accepted by every facility, which means a lot of it still ends up in landfills. Despite the environmental challenges, polyethylene remains a key material in daily life. Its balance of flexibility, strength, and low cost has made it essential in industries ranging from food storage to construction. Electromagnetic forces. When you flip a light switch, use a magnet on your fridge, or charge your phone, you're seeing electromagnetic forces at work. Electromagnetic force is one of the 4 fundamental forces of nature. It's the force that controls how charged particles interact. Every time you feel static, cling, or see lightning in the sky, you're experiencing effects of this force. At the smallest scale, it's the force that holds atoms together, keeping electrons orbiting the nucleus instead of flying off. Electricity and magnetism are actually 2 sides of the same force. Moving electric charges create magnetic fields, and changing magnetic fields can produce electric currents. That's the basic principle behind electric generators, motors, and transformers. In your home, electromagnetic force powers nearly everything. Your TV screen lights up because electrons are being pushed and pulled to create images. Your microwave works by agitating water molecules using electromagnetic waves. Even Wi-Fi and Bluetooth rely on electromagnetic waves to transmit data wirelessly through the air. This force isn't just about convenience, it also holds matter together. Atoms are bound by electromagnetic attraction between negatively charged electrons and positively charged nuclei. Without it, there would be no solid objects. Nothing to touch, nothing to hold. Electromagnetic force also explains why objects don't just pass through each other. When your hand rests on a table, it feels solid because the electrons in your hand are repelling the electrons in the table. That invisible resistance is electromagnetic repulsion. From powering your devices to shaping the structure of matter, electromagnetic force is a constant, invisible presence in everyday life. It links electricity, magnetism, and light into a single powerful interaction that drives much of the modern world. Microwave. Microwaves are a type of electromagnetic wave similar to radio waves, but with a shorter wavelength. In a microwave oven, these waves are generated by a component called a magnetron. It converts electrical energy into microwave radiation and directs those waves into the cooking chamber. What makes microwaves effective for cooking is how they interact with water molecules. Water molecules are slightly charged and can rotate. When exposed to microwaves, these molecules start spinning rapidly. That motion creates friction, and the friction generates heat. This heat spreads through the food, warming it from the inside out, especially in items with high water content, like soups or vegetables. Unlike conventional ovens that heat food by warming the air around it, microwave ovens directly excite molecules within the food. This makes the process faster and more energy efficient. However, it can also lead to uneven heating, especially in thicker items or foods with dry outer layers. Microwave ovens are usually shielded to prevent the waves from escaping, and the turntable helps rotate food for more consistent exposure. Most containers marked as microwave safe are made of materials that don't absorb microwaves, allowing the energy to pass through and target the food instead. You'll also notice that metal should never go in the microwave. That's because it reflects microwave energy and can cause sparks or even damage the oven. From defrosting frozen meals to warming up coffee, microwaves work by energizing water molecules and generating heat directly inside your food. Air conditioner. An air conditioner works by taking warm air from inside a room, removing its heat and sending that heat outside. At the same time, it blows the now cooled air back into the room. This cycle continues until the room reaches the set temperature. The system relies on a substance called refrigerant. This fluid travels through a closed loop of coils and pipes, changing from a gas to a liquid and back again. Inside the indoor unit, the refrigerant absorbs heat from the room's air. A fan helps push this warm air across the cold coil, where the refrigerant captures the heat and starts to evaporate. That now warm refrigerant gas moves to the compressor, usually located in the outside unit. The compressor increases the pressure of the gas, making it even hotter. From there, the gas flows through another coil, this time outside the house. As outdoor air blows across this coil, the refrigerant releases its heat into the air and cools back into a liquid. Finally, this liquid refrigerant cycles back indoors to absorb more heat, and the process repeats. The thermostat monitors the room temperature and tells the system when to turn on or off to maintain the setting. Most air conditioners also remove moisture from the air. As warm air passes over the cold coil, humidity condenses into water and drains away. That's why the air in an air-conditioned room often feels not just cooler, but drier too. By continuously removing heat and humidity, air conditioners create a more comfortable indoor environment, especially during hot weather. Refrigerators. When you open your refrigerator to grab cold milk or leftovers, you're using a machine designed to move heat out of a closed space to keep food fresh longer. Refrigerators work by removing heat from the air and items inside the compartment and releasing that heat outside the unit. The main components involved in this process are the compressor, condenser coils, evaporator coils, and a refrigerant fluid that flows through the system. The process begins with a refrigerant, which starts as a liquid. This fluid flows into the evaporator coils located inside the fridge. As warm air from the fridge interior passes over these coils, the refrigerant absorbs the heat and turns into a gas. This cooling effect lowers the temperature inside the fridge. The now warm refrigerant gas travels to the compressor, which is usually located at the back or bottom of the fridge. The compressor squeezes the gas to increase its pressure and temperature. This hot, high-pressure gas then moves through the condenser coils, typically located on the back or underneath the unit. As it moves through these coils, the refrigerant releases its heat into the surrounding air and condenses back into a liquid. The cycle then repeats. The liquid refrigerant returns to the evaporator coils, and the process of absorbing and removing heat continues. A thermostat inside the fridge measures the temperature and turns the compressor on and off to maintain the set level. Most refrigerators also have a freezer compartment that operates on the same principle, but at a lower temperature, allowing you to preserve food for even longer periods. By using a closed loop of pressure and temperature changes, refrigerators create a cold, stable environment to safely store food and reduce spoilage. Glass. Glass is something you likely touch or look through every day. Whether it's your phone screen, a window, or a drinking cup. At its core, glass is made from sand. Specifically, it starts with silica sand, which is mostly made of silicon dioxide. When this sand is heated to extremely high temperatures, over 1700 degrees Celsius, it melts into a thick, clear liquid. If cooled quickly and evenly, this liquid doesn't crystallize like most materials. Instead, it forms a rigid, transparent solid, glass. What makes glass unique is its structure. While it's solid, its internal molecules don't line up in a repeating pattern like most solids do. This irregular structure is what gives glass its clarity and brittleness. To make flat sheets of glass, like the ones used in windows, manufacturers use a process called float glass. The melted glass is poured onto a bed of molten tin, where it spreads out evenly and cools into smooth sheets. For containers like bottles or jars, machines shape the molten glass into molds before it hardens. Glass can also be strengthened through chemical or thermal treatments. Tempered glass, for example, is rapidly cooled on the outside to make it more resistant to breaking. If it does break, it shatters into small, less dangerous pieces. This is often used in car windows and shower doors. It's also worth noting that many modern types of glass include additives for specific purposes. Borosilicate for heat resistance in cookware, or lead glass for added brilliance in decorative items. Glass plays a quiet but important role in daily life, giving us visibility, protection, storage, and even touch-sensitive surfaces, all from something as simple as sand. Wireless charging. You've probably placed your phone on a flat pad and watched it start charging, without plugging in a cable. That's wireless charging. At its core, wireless charging works using a principle called electromagnetic induction. It involves two coils of wire, one inside the charging pad and one inside your device. When electricity flows through the coil in the pad, it creates a magnetic field. When your phone is placed on the pad, the coil inside your phone picks up this magnetic energy and converts it back into electricity, which charges the battery. This transfer of energy only works over very short distances, usually a few millimeters, so the phone has to be placed directly on the pad. If it's misaligned or lifted slightly, charging can stop. Most phones and pads are designed to line up the coils as precisely as possible for better efficiency. Wireless charging is most commonly found in smartphones, smartwatches, and earbuds. Many modern cars and furniture pieces now come with built-in wireless charging spots, making it easier to top up a battery without hunting for a cable. The most widely used standard is called Qi, pronounced Qi, which ensures that different brands and models can work with the same chargers. Qi-compatible devices can typically charge at various speeds, depending on how much power the pad and device can handle. While wireless charging is generally slower than wired charging, it's more convenient for quick drops throughout the day. Some newer systems are trying to increase range and power, but for now, the technology remains most efficient when the device is placed directly on the pad. Wireless charging simplifies the way we power our devices, reducing cable clutter and making charging as easy as setting something down. Infrared. You've used a TV remote to change channels. That's infrared at work. Infrared is a type of light, but it's invisible to the human eye. It sits just beyond the red end of the visible light spectrum. Even though we can't see it, we experience infrared all the time. One of the most common examples is heat. Any object that's warm, like your body, a cup of coffee, or the sun, emits infrared radiation. Remote controls use infrared to send signals to devices like televisions and air conditioners. Inside the remote is a small infrared LED. When you press a button, it flashes a coded infrared signal. A sensor in the device receives that signal and responds accordingly. This process happens almost instantly, as long as there's a clear line of sight. Infrared is also used in motion sensors, security systems, and even some headphones. Night vision cameras use infrared to see in the dark by detecting heat given off by people or animals. Some automatic faucets and soap dispensers rely on infrared to detect when your hands are near. In smartphones, infrared is sometimes built in as a feature to control home appliances. In industrial settings, infrared thermometers can measure temperature without touching the object, useful for machines, engines, or food safety checks. Infrared waves are longer than visible light, so they carry less energy, but they can still pass through certain materials that visible light can't. This makes them useful in areas like weather monitoring and satellite imaging. Infrared technology is quietly embedded in many aspects of modern life, helping us interact with devices, measure temperatures, and even see in the dark. Face ID. You unlock your phone just by looking at it. That's Face ID in action. Face ID is a type of biometric technology that uses your face as a password. When you set it up, your phone takes a detailed 3D map of your face. It uses a combination of sensors, including an infrared camera and a dot projector, to capture thousands of tiny points across your face, your eyes, nose, jawline, and other contours. Every time you try to unlock your phone, it quickly scans your face and compares it to the stored facial map. If it matches closely enough, the phone unlocks. It works in different lighting conditions, with or without glasses, and even adjusts to small changes like facial hair growth. Face ID isn't just for unlocking your phone. It's also used for approving app logins, making payments, and auto-filling passwords. Because it uses depth information, it's harder to trick with a photo or video. Some systems also check for attention, meaning your eyes have to be open and looking at the screen to add an extra layer of security. Underneath it all, your facial data is stored locally on your device, not sent to cloud servers. That means it stays private and is only used to verify your identity directly on your phone. This kind of technology falls under facial recognition, but Face ID is specifically designed for personal device security, not large-scale surveillance. It's a clear example of how everyday tasks are becoming faster and more seamless through biometric tools. Face ID has turned something as simple as looking at your screen into a secure and convenient way to interact with your phone. Medicine. When you take a pill for a headache or apply cream to a rash, you're using medicine to help your body recover. Medicine refers to substances or treatments designed to prevent, relieve, or cure health problems. It comes in many forms: tablets, liquids, injections, creams, or even inhalers. The goal is always the same: help the body heal or function better. The simplest example is a painkiller. When you have a fever or body aches, over-the-counter medicines like paracetamol or ibuprofen reduce inflammation or block pain signals. Antibiotics are another common type. They fight bacterial infections like strep throat or a urinary tract infection. But they don't work on viruses, which is why doctors don't prescribe them for colds or the flu. Some medicines replace substances your body no longer produces naturally. For example, people with diabetes may take insulin to manage blood sugar. People with thyroid issues might take daily hormone tablets. There are also preventive medicines, like vaccines. These work by teaching the immune system to recognize and defend against specific viruses or bacteria, lowering the chance of getting sick in the first place. Most medicines go through years of research and testing before being approved. Scientists study how the substance works in the body, how it's absorbed, and whether it causes side effects. Dosage is carefully calculated to balance effectiveness and safety. Once approved, medicines are either available over the counter or by prescription. Prescription drugs are typically stronger or used for specific conditions that require a doctor's supervision. Storage, timing, and even food interactions can affect how well a medicine works. That's why directions on the label are important to follow. Medicine is one of the key tools modern healthcare uses to manage illness and improve quality of life. Painkillers. When you have a headache or a sore back, you might reach for a painkiller to feel better. Painkillers, also called analgesics, are medicines that reduce or block pain. They're one of the most common treatments used in daily life, whether it's for a mild headache, muscle cramps, or recovery after surgery. Pain is a signal from the nervous system that something might be wrong. Painkillers work by interfering with how those signals are sent or received. There are two main types of painkillers people use regularly. The first is non-prescription drugs like paracetamol and ibuprofen. Paracetamol helps reduce pain and fever. It works mainly in the brain by lowering the chemical signals that cause discomfort. Ibuprofen, on the other hand, is an anti-inflammatory. It not only reduces pain, but also decreases swelling. It's commonly used for injuries, arthritis, or menstrual cramps. The second type includes stronger painkillers called opioids. These require a doctor's prescription and are used for more serious pain, such as after major surgery or in cancer treatment. Opioids work by attaching to specific receptors in the brain and spinal cord, blocking pain messages. Because they're powerful, they must be used carefully. Long-term use can lead to tolerance, dependence, or other side effects. Some painkillers are fast-acting and start working within minutes. Others are slow-release and designed to manage pain over many hours. There are also gels and creams that target sore muscles or joints directly. While painkillers don't treat the underlying cause of the problem, they make it easier to move, rest, or go about your day while your body heals. Used appropriately, they're a safe and effective way to manage many types of discomfort. Complex human systems explained. Stock market. You might check an app and see a green arrow going up or a red one going down. That's the stock market in motion. The stock market is a system where people buy and sell ownership in companies. When you buy a stock, you're purchasing a small piece of that company, known as a share. If the company does well, makes a profit, grows, or becomes more valuable, your share can increase in value. If it struggles, the value can drop. Public companies list their shares on stock exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. These exchanges are like organized marketplaces where buyers and sellers meet. Prices are determined by what people are willing to pay. If more people want to buy a stock than sell it, the price goes up. If more people want to sell, the price goes down. Investors use the stock market to grow their money. Some hold stocks for years, hoping for long-term growth. Others buy and sell quickly, aiming to make a profit from short-term changes in price. Large investment firms, retirement funds, and individual traders all participate. The stock market also serves companies. By selling shares, a business can raise money to fund new products, hire workers, or expand operations without taking on debt. Market activity is influenced by news, economic reports, company performance, and investor expectations. It can move quickly, especially during uncertainty or major events. That's why you often hear about market volatility. Despite its ups and downs, the stock market plays a central role in modern economies. It connects investors with businesses and helps allocate capital where it's needed, fueling innovation, growth, and opportunity for both companies and individuals. Taxes. Every time you earn money, buy something or own property, you're likely paying a tax. Taxes are payments that individuals and businesses make to the government. These payments fund public services like roads, schools, hospitals, and emergency services. Without taxes, most of the infrastructure and services people rely on every day wouldn't function. There are different types of taxes, depending on the situation. Income tax is taken directly from your earnings. If you have a job, part of your paycheck is withheld and sent to the government. If you run a business or freelance, you calculate and pay taxes on what you earn. Sales tax is added to most purchases. When you buy groceries, electronics, or clothes, the final price often includes a small extra amount that goes to the government. Property tax is paid by people who own homes or land. The amount is usually based on the value of the property and helps fund local services like schools and fire departments. Businesses also pay taxes on their profits. This helps balance the system so that both individuals and organizations contribute to the services they benefit from. Governments use tax revenue to build highways, fund public education, maintain law enforcement, support healthcare systems, and more. Some of the money also goes toward national programs like defense or social security. Tax rates and rules can vary by country, region, or even city. They can change depending on political decisions, economic needs, or population growth. While paying taxes isn't optional, how much you owe can depend on your income, deductions, and specific laws. That's why people often use tax software or professionals to help them file correctly. In short, taxes are how communities pool resources to maintain shared systems and support collective needs. Government. Every road you drive on, school you attend, and law you follow is shaped in some way by the government. A government is the system a community or country uses to organize decision-making and manage shared resources. Its basic role is to create rules, enforce them, and provide services that individuals cannot easily manage on their own. These can include national defense, public health care, education, transportation systems, and the protection of rights. Governments come in many forms, but most are built around three core functions. The legislative branch creates laws, deciding what is allowed and what is not. The executive branch carries out these laws, running programs and ensuring policies are followed. The judicial branch interprets laws and resolves disputes. While the structure can vary, the goal is to maintain order, protect citizens, and support the functioning of society. Taxes are one of the main ways governments fund their work. Money collected from citizens and businesses pays for public services like police, fire departments, and infrastructure. Elections in democratic systems give people a say in who represents them and how policies are shaped. In other systems, leadership may be inherited, appointed, or held by force. Governments also manage relations with other countries, signing agreements, handling trade, and sometimes negotiating peace. They regulate industries to ensure safety and fairness, setting standards for everything from food production to environmental protection. At its core, a government exists to coordinate the complex needs of a population and ensure society runs smoothly. Whether large or small, democratic or authoritarian, its influence reaches into almost every part of daily life, shaping the environment in which people live, work, and interact.